Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sister. I am your man and resident Washington football team fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report Live. So, man, jam-packed show. Lot to get to tonight. We're going to talk about Cam Newton. And really, we're going to talk about the quarterback position as a whole, okay? Because I think something's going to be done this offseason, whether it be free agency or it be the draft. I don't think they're going to go into the season status quo. Something's going to be different, even if it's only one player, even if that guy isn't a contributor in 2021. Something I believe firmly is going to happen at the quarterback position. So we'll talk about that tonight. We will talk about free agency because Brandon Sheriff, I think Wednesday was the first day officially. So yesterday was the first day officially that teams could designate a player as a franchise tag player. So they could slap the tag on them if need be. No one's going to be hasty to slap a franchise tag on any individual player because you want to work out a long-term deal. That is always the goal. But if that cannot be reached, you then have to slap the franchise tag on them so that you don't risk losing them on the free agent market. Obviously, we've got a guy that we tagged last year in Brandon Sheriff that is up for a new deal again this year. Is Brandon Sheriff worth what it will cost to bring him back to Washington on a long-term deal? Is Brandon Sheriff worth what it's going to cost to bring him back on a second consecutive franchise tag? We will discuss that tonight. Washington has been rumored to be interested in just about every single player that has been out on the market, sans for J.J. Watt. That's the one guy that has come available or is going to be available in the future that Washington hasn't been tied to. When Stafford became available, Washington was linked to Matthew Stafford. When Deshaun Watson was rumored, Washington was linked to him. When Sam Darnold's name was mentioned, Washington was rumored to be interested in him. When Derek Carr's name popped up, as it always does every single year, Washington's name popped up. When his backup, Marcus Mariota's name surfaced, Washington then popped up again. So you see the theme here. And Ron told us, hey, we're going to explore all options. Now, we're looking at the safety position. Anthony Harris's name has come up this week. And guess who came knocking at the door again as a team very interested? You guessed it, the Washington football team. So we're going to talk about that because I dismissed any notion of Washington bringing in a free agent safety, at least one that was going to cost you the kind of money that Anthony Harris is more likely than not going to cost you this offseason. So we're going to look at the safety position because that name came up and we were tied to that name, even though I don't anticipate us going that heavy on a safety in free agency. I do want to explore some free agent safety options that are out there that may be in the Washington ballpark and wheelhouse this upcoming offseason. So we'll take a look at that particular position. And then I've got a treat for you. I've got two more quarterbacks that I wanted to kind of break down, give you analysis on those guys' strengths, weaknesses, their comp, and where I project them to go in the draft. And so I said, what the hell? Might as well do it with you guys. So we're going to break down my final two quarterbacks that I want to take a look at prior to the draft and have that available for the masses. So we're going to take a look at both Jamie Newman and Kellen Mond tonight on the program. We'll do that a little bit later on in the show. So stick around for that as well. With that said, I do want to encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to go to the Flick app. The link is down in the description of this and every single video that I do. Make sure you become a member of the MOBB. Stand up. We're in the building. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every single one of the 828 members of the MOBB because a lot of you guys have taken off with the Mob Squad and run with it. And you guys are in there and you're filling it with content and you're putting in your 2 cents and you guys are it's turned into a Washington discussion board of sorts. And I love it. That's kind of the reason behind developing it in the first place. I tried to do something similar to that on my website. It failed epically. And so this was an app that was a little bit more organized. I was able to do it. And you guys have been magnificent with this. I want to see it continue to grow. And what I'm going to do this draft season is I'm going to put some exclusive content up on the Flick app. And I told you, if you haven't, and I said this last night, I'm going to repeat it again. I'm going to say it many more times throughout this process. If you're not following me on every single social media platform, now's the time to do it, including the Flick app if you're a Washington fan, because I'm going to be putting clips up in random places, and it may not be all in the same place. I may not put it up on Twitter and IG and YouTube and in the Flick app, or, it might not even be on Patreon. If you're not following me on Patreon, now you're going to get the full breakdown on Patreon of a lot of these players. But for some of these players, you're not going to get any breakdown. I may give you 2 or 3 plays, break it down, and upload it to IG. LouieTeeNetwork _. on IG. If you're not following me, please do, because again, I'm going to be uploading clips at random spots and places. I might have a Twitter Jones in my bones that day, and I might decide, hey, I want you to see this clip. Found this really interesting. This is a hell of a play. Really like this. And I might upload it on Twitter. I might do it in the Flick app. I will tell you this. When I do the Washington mock draft, which will be a lot closer to April's draft, I'm going to first debut it on the Flick app. So if you want access to that, you got to go and become a member of the Flick app in the MOBB. I'm going to upload it up there first, and I'm going to give you some film breakdown of those particular players that I have us mock draft to select on the Flick app, okay? So that's going to be exclusively done up there as well. I'm not going to do that on YouTube, okay? So again, if you're not following me, if you're not a part of the MOBB on the Flick app, the link is down in the description. Please make sure that you're doing that. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at LouieTeeNetwork. Make sure you're following me on IG, LouieTeeNetwork _. And make sure if you want film breakdowns for the draft and into the season, as we've done all season long, the Patreon account is where you need to be. All of that down in the description of this and every single video that I do. So with that said, I want to start off the show tonight. I got a couple super chats, so I want to take those. I don't ever want to miss a super chat, so I want to take some of these super chats real quick. Kevin the PRF. First of all, let me say, Kevin the PRF, you are a funny ass guy. Period. End of discussion. I can't tell you how many times I've read a comment that you've written or something that you've said, and I just find myself laughing at random times because of it. Whether it's something in one of my streams or it's a comment you leave in the comment section. I was looking at one of your comments the other day. I think it was when I was talking about the Alex Smith comments in the GQ article. And I think I had snatched it off of, I want to say it was either JP Finley or John Kimes' Twitter account. It may have been Ben Standing, either. I can't remember. But I snatched it off of somebody's Twitter account. They had transcribed it, and it said, high arm. And he said, I just finished Googling high arm. I didn't know what the hell it meant. I was like, that's not a real thing, is it? Normally somebody tries to strong arm you. I've never heard of somebody high arming you, but it was IR, not high arm. So anyway, you're a funny guy. I just wanted to say that, but I digress. My man Kevin the PRF writes, Schefter reported today Watson reiterated his stance not to play another down in Houston. I'm not saying, just saying. And you're absolutely right. And I told you that this may not end well for Houston. It doesn't seem that way. But again, Houston has the leverage because at the end of the day, with the way the CBA is set up, again, nobody wants to hold a guy against his will. Nobody wants to hold any players hostage. If he doesn't want to be there, just turn him loose. I know a lot of people don't like the way that these players have taken control over their own, outcomes as to where they're going to play and, all of the things that the team used to be in full control over. It's a different day. I talked about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, that the quarterbacks, especially ones like Russell Wilson, and we're seeing his name pop up now a little bit more in trade talks, and Deshaun Watson, they've got the juice. I've talked about that already. They can dictate whether they're going to play or not going to play, and whether you have to trade me or not. And it's not just limited to the quarterbacks, even though they have the most juice of anybody. We saw Jamal Adams do the same thing and fetch 2 first-round picks for the Jets. We saw Stephon Diggs do the same thing in Minnesota, and he was shipped off. You can force your way out if you really want out. And Deshaun Watson is in a position to do exactly that. I'm going to stick steadfast to what I've been saying all along, which is he's not going to be traded. I'm probably going to end up being wrong, but I'm going to die on that hill. And when I do finally suffer that fate, I'll come back and I'll offer up a massive double O. But until then, I'm going to stick with what I've been saying all along, which is he's not going to be traded. But he seems adamant. Again, he can be as adamant as he wants. It's February. There's no football happening for another 6 months. He can be as adamant as he wants in February. We'll see if he's this adamant once the fines start and the Texans show that they're not budging. If we get to that point, again, if this is a game of chicken, the Texans don't have to flinch. He's under contract. They don't have to do anything. If he wants to retire, Carson Palmer style, go right ahead. You can sit down. We'll play another guy. We're going to stink anyway. The Texans, without Deshaun Watson, they're not going to be good. With Deshaun Watson, chances are they're probably not going to be very good anyway. So if he wants to play hardball, technically speaking, and I don't think they're going to go that route, they could say, well, then don't play then. Take your ball and go home. We'll see what they decide to do, but you're absolutely right. Adam Schefter reiterated today, and he reiterated that because Deshaun Watson came out with a cryptic tweet that essentially said, loyalty, something along the lines of, loyalty means everything. And I think he followed that up with something along the lines of, don't you ever forget it, or something like that. So essentially what he's saying is the Houston Texans ain't loyal. These boys ain't loyal. So don't expect me to come back and play for them ever. If that's his stance, we could have a good old-fashioned stare down. And we'll see who blinks first. I'm game if you're game. Again, he ain't coming to Washington, though. We can sit here and have all the discussions. Remember, much like Russell Wilson, who said today, I'm not demanding a trade, but if you decide that you do, in fact, want to trade me, I don't want to go to anywhere other than Dallas. It's amazing how every player that demands to be traded throws Dallas in there. The Dallas Cowboys, and they're not a bad team. I keep telling you guys that. But it doesn't matter how funky Dallas is or how poorly ran they are. They always say, hey, I'll go to Dallas. And there's a reason behind that. I've explained that so many times. But anyway, he said Dallas, he said New Orleans, he said Chicago, and he said Vegas. You want to ship me somewhere, I'll go to one of those 4 teams. He's got a no trade clause in his contract. So does Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson can say, hey, I don't want to play for Washington. Don't send me there. And I'm pretty sure there's a short list of teams that he wants to play for, and I guarantee it, we're not on it, which is generally the case. And I keep trying to explain this to you guys. I sent out a tweet today when Russell Wilson put out his list, or his handlers put out his list. And I said, we're not on the list as usual, per usual. We're not on the list. You guys have to stop being thirsty for every guy that's really good that you think is available, because 9 times out of 10, they don't want us. We want them. They don't want us. And who wants somebody that don't want you back? I know I damn sure don't. I got too much pride for that shit. And I know what they say. Pride comes before the fall. I got too much pride for that. Either you want to love me just as much as I want to love you, or let's just agree to disagree. You go your way, I go my separate way. Anyway, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin, the PRF, my man Kev. Got another super chat. This one is from Chris Lou. Haven't heard from you in a while, Chris Lou. Good to hear from you. Hope all is well with you. Chris Lou says, nothing special, Lou. Been a minute. Look at that. We on the same page. We here, man. I guess because your name is Lou and I'm Lou in some regard. So I guess that's kind of that connection that we just seem to share. Just wanted to participate and donate. Keep up the good job. Salute from Senegal, West Africa. My man, really appreciate you. I know a lot of times when we do these streams, we're in a totally different time zone with you. And it's like, 2 in the morning. I remember you saying that once upon a time. So I know it's a little tough for you to get to one of these every now and again. But it's just good to hear from you, just to know that you're okay and everything's going well with you. So glad to hear from you, Chris Lou. And big ups, man. Really appreciate all that you do. Got another super chat. This one is from my man, B-Mac, Brendan McCloskey. Greatly appreciate you as always. B-Mac writes, just want to support you, man. Keep up the great work. Totally appreciate that gesture as well, B-Mac, as always. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all of your contributions and support. So thank you so much, Brendan McCloskey. Got another super chat. This one is from my guy, Rob U. Greatly appreciate you, Rob U, who writes, Lou, I can respect what Cam Newton has done in the league, but just not a good fit here. Trey Lance, Mariota, or stand pat till next year? ? So, Rob, that's a great segue to what I was going to start the show off with, was the Cam Newton discussion. So I did a volleyball with you guys. I served it up, boop, knocked it over the net, and I hit it to you guys, and I said, hey, Cam Newton, he was on I Am Athlete, okay? Made a compelling case as to why he struggled last year. He's talking like a man with a massive chip on his shoulder. We all saw the video of the kid chastising him, talking about he's a free agent and that he's broke and this, that, and the third. So disrespectful. And these young kids, boy, I tell you, they just don't know any better. Either that or they're just plain flat out stupid. Because that kid, and he's already apologized, that apology ain't worth a damn, okay? He's totally, unless he is just the best athlete in the world, he's totally submarined any chance of him having success in the collegiate ranks or in the NFL. They'll never forget that kid. That's just plain flat out stupid and disrespectful. And he did it all for clout, all for a laugh. Just so the guys around him and he could post it on his socials and everybody be like, oh, he clowning Cam Newton. You dumbass. Do you want to play football? Obviously you don't care about your future at all. Because if you think that shit's going to get you brownie points with a coaching staff, you're sadly mistaken. Anyway, I digress. That's a totally different discussion for another day. I don't mean to bore you with that nonsense. Cam Newton, I gave you guys the question. Did Cam Newton's conversation on I Am Athlete with Fred Taylor and Brandon Marshall and Chad Johnson, did that move you at all? If you were on the fence, are you now saying, hey, why not Cam? If you weren't a Cam Newton supporter and didn't think he had anything left, did that somewhat change your mind? And if you were already saying bring Cam to DC, that only strengthened the way that you felt. I told you I was going to give you my answer, and I told you that I felt like Cam said a lot of good things. He talked some shit, man, and it was some good shit. He talked his shit on that show, and it was impressive. I've always been a Cam Newton fan. This is what some of you, I think, fail to understand. Always been a massive Cam Newton fan. Go check the archives, okay? You'll see going all the way back to 2012 and 13 and 14 and that Super Bowl run in 15. You're going to hear me saying this over and over. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. Nope, it's number 1. And Cam is his name. Super Cam. You're going to see me singing that 1,000,000 times. Massive Cam Newton fan. Okay? But I've been adamant since 2 years ago. And even when he got injured his last year in Carolina And Kyle Allen started playing well. I even did a video then saying, you're a damn fool if you think Kyle Allen is better than Cam Newton. If you're thinking about moving on from him, bad move. That's bad news. Well, they moved on from him and Kyle Allen, both of them. However, I said it then, I wasn't sure if we were ever going to see the Cam Newton of old ever again. And I'm more convinced now than ever before that that guy's gone and he's never coming back again. He's got a massive chip on his shoulder. I like that. He said in the interview he wanted Josh McDaniels to use him more, meaning, hey, I don't mind running. You know, I remember saying after week one's win over Miami, where it was something like 21-11, and he had like 15 carries in that game, I said, this is what they're going to do. They're going to run this shit out of him. Use him up. It's a 1-year deal, and then send him on his way. Well, they didn't quite do that. You know, it wasn't Cam left, Cam right, Cam up the middle. They did use him in the run game quite a bit, but they gave him a chance to throw it. He just wasn't very good. I've said this too. Didn't have a lot of talent around him at the skill positions. And he had some games. The Seattle game comes to mind. That Jets game on a Monday night where they were trailing big at halftime and Joe Flacco turned back the clock. He had some games when he brought them from behind and they kicked a walk-off field goal and won that game. But there were a lot more stinkers in there than there were Cam Newton performances that wowed you. I just don't think he's that guy anymore. And if he is, I wish him nothing but the best. I just don't want to be the team that tries to find out and is sadly disappointed. I don't want him here in Washington. My stance hasn't changed one bit. I don't think he can push the football down the field the way that he once could. I think him throwing the football 20 yards down the field, it's painful to watch. He's putting every single ounce of strength he's got into every single throw that passes 10 yards down the field. I just don't think he can be consistent in doing what he's doing. I do think he can still run. I do think he can still lead a team if they're playing quality defense and they've got some talent around him. I do think he can come in and help someone. But I don't know if we're good enough offensively to bring in a Cam Newton and have him have limitations and still be able to get by. And honestly, is that what you want for the position anyway? That's not what I want. I'm not saying that, you know, bringing back Kyle Allen or Taylor Heineke is the answer or even motivates or moves any of you out there, okay? However, they know the offense. They've proven that they can move the ball in this offense. And with Taylor Heineke, shit, he played really well in the most pressure-packed game of the season. I shouldn't say that. The Week 17 game against the Eagles was the most pressure-packed game of the season. And he played balls to the wall in a playoff game. And it doesn't get much more high stakes than that. And he played well against a really good defense, as we later found out, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I don't really know if the answer is on the roster or not. Probably not. But guess what? I don't think Cam Newton is either. So, no, I don't want Cam. I haven't changed my stance. I tricked some of you. I tricked you. I tricked you. I tricked you. I tricked some of y'all. Y'all thought I was going to change my mind because of how I was speaking. No, nothing has changed. Again, I'm a Cam Newton supporter. I hope he gets another opportunity. I hope I would like him to go back to New England and have some success. Because they got a ton of cap space, which is why New England is desperately out here trying to get one of these quarterbacks. But nobody wants to play with New England. Isn't that funny? How all of a sudden now, New England was the destination, and what we're finding out is it was only the destination everybody wanted to be at because of Tom Brady. Now that Brady's no longer there, nobody wants to be there. It's funny how that works. Anyway, I digress. I just want to see him have some success. So I'd like to see him. He said he doesn't want to go out like that. I don't want to see him go out like that. But I don't want to see him here in a Washington football team uniform. So, and as far as Trey Lance, Mariota, or Stan Pat, I think they're going to do something. It wouldn't shock me in the least if they moved up in the draft, if they identify one of these quarterbacks as a guy that they feel like could be the future. That wouldn't shock me at all if they packaged up a deal and moved up and got a guy. It wouldn't shock me if they stood pat at 19 and took Mac Jones. It wouldn't shock me if Mac Jones falls to the second round and they trade up. They got 2 third-rounders. They package up their second and one of their thirds to go up and get Mac Jones. It wouldn't shock me in the least if they were aggressive in getting a quarterback in this year's draft. It wouldn't shock me because I don't know if you guys were paying attention to Ian Rappaport, but he said that right now the quarterback carousel has come to a halt. You know, the Jets aren't looking to move Darnold yet. They've clearly made it a point of emphasis to analyze and really get all of the information gathered on all the quarterbacks in the draft before they decide to move on from Sam Darnold or move forward with Sam Darnold. So that won't happen until closer to the draft. All of that Marcus Mariota steam that was really starting to rev up, that's kind of cooled down and simmered down a bit. Derek Carr, to me, was never on the table unless the Raiders were going to get some outstanding and outrageous deal that I didn't think was coming their way for Derek Carr. Watson isn't being traded anytime soon, if in fact he does get traded. So it seems like everything's kind of calmed down a bit. So something's going to have to be done. Either I don't see it happening during free agency, so it'll be more around draft time if Washington's going to make a move. We'll see what happens. Trey Lance could be their guy. Marcus Mariota could be their guy. We'll see. You know, there were reports earlier that they really like Justin Fields. It's Lion season. You know how I feel about that. So don't take anything you hear and just run with it. That's for sure. Got another super chat. This next one is from Colton Pagano Jackson, my man CPJ. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. CPJ writes, "What's up, Lou? Showing some love. Hashtag Mob Squad." Appreciate you, CPJ. Make sure, again, if you aren't following me on all socials, make sure you're doing that because I'm going to be uploading clips all over the place. IG, LouieTeeNetwork _, Twitter, @LouieTeeNetwork. On the Flick app, you know, Mob Squad, that's down in the description below. Everything's down in the description below. Make sure you're following me everywhere because, again, I'm going to be putting content all over the place. And Patreon, most importantly, if you can support, please do on Patreon. That's where the bulk of the film breakdowns are going to be stored. So if you want access to that, that's where you're going to be able to get the full film breakdowns for this draft season. Appreciate you, CPJ. Protect Sports Network, my man Protect Sports, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Protect Sports Network writes, "My guy Louie T, what's good? Mob Squad." What's good with you, man? I see you over there making some power moves too, man. Like what you're doing and the moves you're making. Continue to put out that content, bro. I see what you're doing, man. So much respect and love to my man Protect Sports. And if you're not subscribed to his channel, you need to go ahead and do that as well. Got a super chat here from Christian Clout. Thank you for the super chat, Christian Clout, who writes, "Mariota, Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith, Curtis Samuel, free agent pickups, chemistry would be there, and offense would have immediate impact." I've long said that I have no problems going to the Tennessee Titans store and shopping all up and down through there, man. Like, I got my shopping cart, and I'm walking through the Tennessee Titans store, and I'm like, oh, pick me up a Corey Davis. Nope, not that tight end. Nope, that Jonnu Smith. Put one of those in the cart. Do we need a linebacker? Yeah, I'm gonna throw one of their linebackers in the cart. I think I'm gonna check out with just this. I don't mind shopping at the Tennessee Titans store. And I read an article the other day when referring to Curtis Samuel, and I this didn't dawn on me. It should have, but it didn't. I'm gonna admit that it didn't dawn on me until I read the article, and it spoke about Curtis Samuel and the connection with Terry McLaurin. They were roommates at Ohio State. They played together, and they're very, very good friends. And so there is a chemistry there between the two of them. I don't know if that means a damn thing, once we get to the NFL. I already told you, just because of the Carolina Panthers connection and Hurney and Rivera being big fans of Curtis Samuel, I'm not sure if Hurney was actually responsible for drafting him. That might have been a Dave Gettleman draft pick. Whatever the case may be, I know Rivera loves Curtis Samuel, and he dug in our ass. I mean, he literally single-handedly destroyed us offensively in that game in Week 16 versus Carolina. So for all intents and purposes, he was given a test. He passed with flying colors, and I think he's going to end up being in a Washington uniform. That's just my opinion. I don't have to love it, but again, I told you, once a guy becomes a member of the family, I'm going to welcome him with open arms. But, I would much rather go after a Corey Davis. And I don't think Corey Davis is going to cost you that much. I think he's going to be a little bit cheaper than a Curtis Samuel. I don't think you get both of those guys. I don't think they signed two receivers that are going to cost you close to or above $10 million. But I think you could get one of those, and then you could get a guy that may be, under, $10 million, like a John Ross, for instance. I keep bringing that name up because I don't think he's going to cost you, $9-10 million. I think he's going to cost you somewhere in that 6-7 range. And yeah, it's for 1 year more likely than not. That's all we're looking for. And then you sign a guy that's going to cost you 11-12 per year, which is right around Curtis Samuel's market, somewhere in that $12-13 million range. Corey Davis is more in that 9-10-11 range. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think they're going to sign both of those guys, but I do think Curtis Samuel, more likely than not, never, ever trust a man with two first names is going to end up here in Washington. I would take me some Jonnu Smith in a heartbeat. Again, I think the Titans are somewhat, kind of slow playing it with Jonnu Smith because he can be, just much like Corey Davis, he can be hit or miss. Jonnu Smith can have 7 catches for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns, or Jonnu Smith can have 1 catch for 4 yards and have 2 drops. Like, there's this crazy range. Same thing with Corey Davis. Corey Davis can go off for 8 catches, $136 and a touchdown and be your most productive receiver, or Corey Davis could have 2 catches for 7 yards and 2 drops and look disinterested. That's kind of the disconnect, and I think that's kind of why Tennessee's like not picking up your 5th-year option, which they didn't do last year, and that's why they kind of like, not sure if we want to franchise tag you. You can hit the bricks if you need to. So it's interesting. You got to know what you're getting yourself into. I'm more than willing to take on some of that because I think there's a lot of potential for these guys, and I wouldn't mind bringing in Mariota, Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith, or Curtis Samuel. Again, not a massive Curtis Samuel fan from the standpoint of him being a number 2, but if you told me that we had another guy as a number 2 and Samuel was going to be our 3rd option, you couldn't get it any better than that, which is why I'm pretty sure you put Corey Davis in there. I just don't see them being that aggressive this offseason at the wide receiver position. I could be wrong, but we will see. That would be a very fruitful offseason, Christian, if we were able to pick those guys up on the offensive side of the football. Got another super chat. This one is from Rob U. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Rob U. Greatly appreciate you. Rob U, who writes, Lou, it is a must re-sign Darby and Sheriff. Going into the draft with that done and a wide receiver signed would give us plenty of options in the draft. Even if that's not done, we would still have plenty of options, but I know exactly where you're coming from. You would like those issues to be solved so that it takes the pressure of needing to fill a cornerback void or needing to fill a wide receiver void or needing to fill a guard void, which I don't think they would look to fill at 19 potentially. So I do understand where you're coming from, but if Darby walks in free agency, now cornerback is a glaring need. And like I said, to me, that would then go to the front of the list on the defensive side of the football. That would even leapfrog linebacker. If you don't have another corner to go opposite of Kendall Fuller, who at times was spotty last year. Again, Darby was our best corner last season, so you're losing your best corner. You're going to need to replace that guy ASAP. So that would become one of the places where it may be something you have to do at 19 all of a sudden. So I get exactly what you're saying. Sheriff, if he were to walk, I don't think they would look to address that at 19, but it would probably become a priority with one of those 2 third-round picks that we have. But I agree with you. I think it is a must we re-sign Darby. I don't know if it's a must that we re-sign Sheriff. I want to re-sign him. I've made my position known. I would like to re-sign Brandon Sheriff. I know it's going to cost us a pretty penny, but this is what I'm kind of looking at here with Brandon. 1, he's homegrown talent. 2, he's a guy that has done it the right way. You didn't pay him when you first got here. Rivera didn't pay anybody when he first got here. He didn't pay Kerrigan. He didn't, he didn't pay Trent Williams. He didn't pay Quentin Dunbar. He didn't pay anybody. That was across the board. He said, look, I don't know you. You don't know me. I just want to get a feel for what everybody is about. And if we like what we see, then we can talk turkey. Well, Sheriff battled through injuries as he always does. He played, I think, 12 games this year, 12 or 13 games, which is the most he's played in the last 3 years. So that's a good thing. We know the injury history. That does give you a little bit of pause. But if you want to send a message to the rest of the locker room that if you do it the right way, you're going to be rewarded here, I think Brandon Sheriff, who is a team captain, is the perfect guy to re-sign. So, again, it's going to be a lot of money. I tell you this, what I don't want to do, what I do not want to do is franchise tag him again. He made $14 million, a little bit over $14 million on the franchise tag last year. Remember, with the new CBA, if you franchise tag a guy a second consecutive year, that number then jumps 120%, which would take that $14 million up to $18 million. I do not want to pay Brandon Sheriff $18 million for 1 year service. That's what I don't want. I don't want to go down the Kirk Cousins road again. Either it's long-term with Brandon or Brandon can get his money elsewhere. That's the way I see this thing working out, and that's the way I want it to work out. Either we can find a way to come to a common ground that works for both sides on a Brandon Sheriff long-term deal to keep him in Washington, or you move on from him. I don't want to franchise tag Brandon Sheriff. All right. If I'm paying him, or if we're paying him $18 million per season, that's fine. What I don't want to do is an $18 million 1 year franchise tag, and then next year you still can't work out a long-term deal and then he walks. That I don't want to do. So I feel you on wanting to get a lot of this stuff resolved before the draft so that you don't feel like there's a need to reach at a specific position, i.e. wide receiver, which I don't think they would reach. There would be some talented guys falling into their lap at 19 if they wanted to go that route. Corner would be the one where it could get a little dicey if you were to select a guy at 19 and one of those guys' names isn't Farley or Surtain. So, yeah, I could see where you're coming from there, and I totally agree with you. Got a super chat here. This one is from Colton Wheeler. Thank you for the super chat, Colton Wheeler. Greatly appreciate you. Colton Wheeler writes, so rumors swirling that Seattle would deal Wilson for the right price. Would you pay 2021 first and second, plus 2022 first and second, plus 2023 first, Jonathan Allen for Russ, and a shot at the Super Bowl right now? So as I've stated, he doesn't want to come here. He's made it abundantly clear. So all the hypotheticals surrounding Russell Wilson doesn't make a ton of sense for us. At least with Watson, if you want to play that game, he hasn't ruled Washington out. Okay? So we can play that game all day long when it comes to Deshaun Watson because, one, he's 25 years old. Russell Wilson is 30. So there's a big difference about giving up future draft capital because you're like, hey, we're going to be good for the next decade plus. With Russell Wilson, you could maybe say the same thing. We see these quarterbacks playing well into their 40s now. It's not a big deal anymore, but he's 30. He's not 25. So there's a big difference there. But forget all of that. Back to my original point. Russell Wilson's made it abundantly clear. Don't want to play for Washington. I don't want to play for the New York Jets or the New York Giants. Okay? I don't want to play for the Carolina Panthers. I got 4 destinations that if you're thinking about trading me, that I would like to go to. Dallas, New Orleans, Chicago, and Raiders in Vegas. That is it. You're not shipping me, and he's got a no trade clause. So he can veto any deal that he wants. They could get a great deal. That same deal that you're throwing up. Washington could offer the Seahawks that same deal, and they're looking at it like, man, that's PHAT. Fat. Pretty hot and tempting. And Russ can say, sure it is. It's a great deal for you guys. It's not for me. I'm not going there. And that deal's off the table. So, hypothetically speaking, just to answer your hypothetical, no, I wouldn't want to do that. You know what? I wouldn't mind doing that. I wouldn't do that because I didn't even want to do that for Deshaun Watson. I didn't even want to do that for Deshaun Watson. Now, I like Jonathan Allen. I thought he was very, very improved last season. But you're talking about giving up 5 picks in the first 2 rounds of the next 3 drafts. That's a lot of, and a player. That's a lot of draft capital. Big time draft capital. For a 30-year-old quarterback. And I get it. It's Russell Wilson. He's a top 3 quarterback in the league. I totally get it. But he doesn't want to come here anyway. So, but you're right. It would give us an opportunity to be a Super Bowl contender right now, as Deshaun Watson would. You know, those kind of quarterbacks, you get them on your team, you automatically become a Super Bowl contender. But I don't think that's something we even need to discuss because he's made it abundantly clear. I don't want to come to Washington. And he's from the area. He's from Richmond. So you would think we would have been on the short list. Nah. Your organization is trash. That's why I tweeted out what I tweeted. I just wanted you guys to understand. We're still viewed as bottom feeders in this, and we should be. We went 7-9. We didn't go 10-6 last year. We went 7-9 in a putrid division, and Ron Rivera is viewed as a savior because this organization has been the worst. So obviously, if I'm a top-notch player in this league, I'm telling you right now, Washington's not on my short list. And I don't blame them. We've got to change that narrative. And we're in the process of trying to do that. But it's going to take time. Got another super chat. This one is from Santiago Tradell. My guy Santiago, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Santiago Tradell writes, peace, love, and blessings. Likewise. He says, hopefully we're trending in a direction that will make quarterbacks regret not choosing Washington football team as a choice. That's the hope, is that, you know, we start building something that people envy, that players want to be a part of, and other fans of other teams envy. That's what we're looking to build here. A lot of us didn't get to feel that. For those of you old enough, you know what it's like to be the New England Patriots of the NFL. One of the most revered and respected, except without the stigma of being assholes, which is what the Patriots have done with the Patriot way. In the 80s, Joe Gibbs, Joe Bugle, and Bobby Beathard and company, and those guys, they built this thing into a juggernaut. You know, Bugles was known for being the offensive line coach of the Hogs, and Gibbs was this offensive genius, but just a great motivator overall. And Bobby Beathard was this wizard at putting all of this talent together. It was in a different day and age with no free agency, so you could hold on to your stuff and you could make these long title runs and dynasties. And we put together one hell of a run from 81 pretty much all the way until Joe Gibbs retired in 1992. And we were one of the best organizations in football. We went on the road and we won playoff games. We hosted playoff games. We were the shit. The NFC East was the best division in football, and it wasn't close. There were big matchups. 12-2 Dallas against 13-1 Washington. These were the kinds of matchups that were commonplace. And a lot of us have never felt it, and we may never get to feel that. But we're hoping, maybe, just maybe, Ron can restore just a sliver of that. I'm not asking for him to bring the full glory days back. That would be foolish, damn near impossible, especially with Daniel Snyder owning this team. However, if he can just bring us a sliver of that back, where we at one point in the season aren't looking to backdoor our way in and having to win 5 out of our final 6 just to win the division at 10-7 or make a wild card at 9-8. Because we're going to have that 17th game, mark my words, this upcoming season. But rather, how about we be 10-2 going into a massive Week 14 showdown on Sunday Night Football versus the New York Giants or the Philadelphia Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys? When can we get some of that action? When can we be one of the best teams in the league? When can we go into the season as a Super Bowl contender? That's what we're hoping for. It's going to take time, and more likely than not, it's going to take us finding a quarterback to get us to that point. But we will see what happens. Rob U, thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. Rob U, thank you for tripling up, who writes, if Jeremiah Owusu Koromora falls to 19, do you take him? Depends on if Washington's aggressive at the linebacker and how much they value that weak side linebacker position, because as we saw towards the end of the season, I think some of that was out of necessity. We couldn't stop the run consistently in a 4-man defensive front. So they started having to go to that 5-man defensive front, almost like a damn bear front. And so because we had to go to that 5-man defensive front look, it took one of the linebackers off the field because you were adding in another defensive lineman. And so that weak side linebacker was pretty much non-existent. They kept the strong side backer, which was Cole Holcomb, and the middle linebacker, which was John Bostic, on the field. And we went exclusively to that. You could see them taking one of those linemen off the field and keeping that linebacker off the field and playing with a 5th defensive back instead of having a 5th defensive lineman. Because, again, I don't think they want to take Cameron Curl off the field. And if you're getting Landon Collins back, he's going to be on the field as well. And I don't know what they're going to do at free safety. We're going to talk about that tonight. They could bring back the guys that we already have. I told you, I don't think that position's that bad off as some may like to assume. But whatever the case may be, 3 safety look with 2 corners on the field, or 3 corners and 3 safeties. You could easily have 6 defensive backs and have 4 D linemen and 1 linebacker on the field. I don't know how much, essentially what I'm trying to get to is, I don't know how much they value a weak side backer, because that's what Jeremiah Owusu Koromora is. He's a weak side backer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's not a middle linebacker. He's a weak side backer. He's the guy you put over the slot, and he's running with that slot receiver 30 yards down the field. He is a difference maker. You can blitz him. You can do a lot of things with him. How much do they value the guy that's going to be playing KPL's position? Because at the end of the season, KPL was perfectly fine, and he wasn't getting any run. So I don't know if they truly value that weak side linebacker position, or if it was just out of necessity because we weren't stopping the run well enough with 4 down linemen and 3 linebackers that they decided to take the weak side linebacker off the field. If you love him and you think you can do some creative things with him and you feel like this is a necessity to take the defense to the next level, yes, you take him at 19. And there are a host of other guys that will be available at 19 that I would definitely give you the green light on taking. He's one of them if he is in fact available at 19. There's a strong possibility that he won't be, but then in that same breath, there's a strong possibility that he could be. I think it all really depends on how many corners come off the board and how many offensive tackles come off the board. Because we already know 4 quarterbacks are coming off the board more likely than not. It could be a 5th. You know, if Mac Jones could get pushed up, I don't see him getting pushed up before Washington selects at 19. But we know for sure 4 quarterbacks are going to be off the board. Probably 3 wide receivers are coming off the board. A tight end is going to come off the board. A linebacker is going to come off the board. So we know that. Those are definites. Those are givens. I know I've heard a lot of rumors and rumblings and grumblings about Michael Parsons and some trouble he may have gotten into off the field. I don't know if that's going to really derail his draft stock or not. I highly doubt it because, trust me, there's a team that will be willing to stop that slide quick, fast, and in a hurry if he falls out of the top 10. I don't know if anybody, if it's something really minuscule and it's not something that you see as a behavior that he's going to continue to repeat, that you have to worry about, they're gonna pull the trigger on him. I don't see him getting out of the top 10. But in any event, yes. To answer your question, yes, I would take him without a doubt. Protect Sports Network, double up, thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. My man Tones writes, if the Jets cut JC Ice, you want him back, bro? I do. No, I'm good. Love Jamison Crowder. Love what he did here the first time around. I'm not interested in a reunion. I'm looking to go in a totally different direction than JC Ice. I think we got enough stuff on this roster. We don't really technically have a guy that looks like JC Ice unless Steven Sims Jr. gets his shit back together and rebounds from what was a disappointing season. And he showed flashes in that Buccaneers game, but he also did have a drop in that game as well. But he had a couple of massive catches, one on a 3rd down on the sideline, and then obviously the touchdown grab in the back of the end zone. So if he can get back to the form that we saw 2 years ago in his rookie season in 2019, then we've got a guy. We don't need JC Ice. If they go out and get Curtis Samuel, you definitely don't need JC Ice because Curtis Samuel can do a lot of the same things that JC Ice can do, just a lot faster than he can. So, no, I'm good on him. Honestly speaking, I'm looking to add speed and or size. He's neither of those. He doesn't check either of those boxes. And youth. He's not a young guy either. So I'm good on JC Ice. I don't need a reunion there. Thank you for that super chat. Got a super chat here from my guy, Trevor Patch. Thank you for the super chat, Trevor Patch, who writes, who else could it be but my man Louie T? Big ups to you, Trevor Patch. He says, in the timeline that I'm from, Ron swings hard and misses on QB and wide receiver. The quarterback competition creates too much drama and release Allen. After a 6-0 start, we lose the rest of our games. You know how hard it is to start 6-0 in a season? I don't give a shit who your opponents are, and then not win another game. Like, you'd have to have catastrophe strike, i.e. your starting quarterback goes down in order to start off. It's one thing if you start a season 2-0 and then lose all 14 remaining games, or maybe it's 15 this upcoming season with the additional game. I saw a coach do that. His name is, Raheem Morris. Did it in Tampa Bay in his last year in Tampa. Won the first 2 games of the season and then proceeded to lose the final 14 and got canned. It's hard to start a season off 6-0 and then drop 10 straight or 11 straight. Again, even if our starting quarterback went down, the next guy up would be able to come in and win a game. Again, unless that guy went down too, then you just got terrible luck. Then something like that could happen. Either way, Ron's already swung and missed on the quarterback position. But that's only strike 1 on Matthew Stafford. Got a couple more swings. And look, if you can, just keep foul tipping it. Just keep fouling it off. In the baseball world, we call it staying alive. Just stay alive to get another pitch. All right? That's all you're looking to do. Get another hack at it. Take another cut. So I don't think he's coming away with nothing this offseason. I really, truly believe they think that the window of opportunity has sped up a bit. I think they were looking at this season as the first in which they would be competitive. Maybe not win the division, but, maybe threaten to win the division. Last year was supposed to be a feeling out process. Hey, who's on this roster that we feel like can get in the car and ride with us long term? Who are the guys that we need to drop off at the bus station? I think they figured that out now. But they were able to figure that out all the while winning the division, and we improved so greatly on the defensive side. They're looking around and saying, okay, wait a minute. This division, we don't know. The division could come alive next year. Philadelphia get their shit together. Probably not. More likely than not, it's Dallas if anybody's going to get their shit together if Dak Prescott comes back, which I expect him to. And they could be, 12, 13 game winners. And all of a sudden, we're no longer, in a position to make the postseason from a division standpoint. Maybe we can backdoor our way in as a wild card. But I don't think they thought last year was going to be the season that it ended up being. They thought this could be a season where they could compete for something. I think now they're looking at it like, hey, won a division, got the guys some playoff experience. We're ahead of schedule. Hey, let's turn this shit up, man. Let's go after it now. We're here. We're competitive. Let's go. And I think that's why they're so aggressive after the quarterback. That's why I think they want to do something. Even if it's not getting a veteran, they want to get the young guy in here as soon as possible, because the sooner you get that ball rolling, the faster he can help contribute to making this thing a winner. And again, you got a short window for this defense to be elite, because I don't know what the future holds for Montez Sweat when his deal is up. Again, I see it like the San Francisco 49ers. They had 2 stud defensive tackles. They had to choose one and ship the other off. You can't re-sign both guys, because this isn't like the defensive tackle position where DeForest Buckner was shipped off to Indy and he got a $125 million contract, and they were able to sign the lesser of the two for an $87 million contract. That ain't happening at defensive end. Both of those guys are going to get contracts well over $100 million. You're not going to be able to re-sign both of them. Unless you got nothing at quarterback. That's the only way you can bring back a guy like Montez Sweat and Chase Young, is if you got absolutely zero at quarterback. And that's not what we're looking to have. That's not what we want. If you got nothing at quarterback, then yeah, you got a bunch of cap space to be able to sign both of those guys. But again, that means you're running around on the hamster wheel in a big, gigantic circle. Nobody wants that. Thank you for the super chat, Trevor Patch. Rob U, thank you for your 4th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you, Rob U, who writes, I know Curtis Samuel is not the purest wide receiver, but how much would him being here upgrade the offense, and would it be enough? It could be. I mean, he's a dynamic weapon. We saw that against us. I mean, he got us for a 40-yard run on a jet sweep. He got us for a 40-yard catch on a seam ball. And he caught a bunch of critical 3rd down completions. Like, he's an impactful guy. I don't want to demean him as a receiver. I don't think he's the legit number 2 option, which is what I was after this offseason. That's all. That's all I'm trying to. I don't want you guys to misconstrue what I'm trying to convey about Curtis Samuel. He's not a scrub, okay? The guy can play. My concerns are he's a high-maintenance athlete, so he's in the shop. He's a foreign car, all right? He's a Range Rover, all right? He's a BMW. Have you ever had a Mercedes-Benz and the headlight go out? Or something happened to the steering wheel? You know how much it costs to get that fixed on a Mercedes-Benz? The simplest thing. Get your windshield wiper to break. Good luck replacing that for less than $300-400. And that's all I'm saying. He's a high-maintenance athlete. Always in the shop, needing to be tuned up. And he's not a true number 2 wide receiver. But in this offense, with the way they could move him around and utilize him, he could be a real weapon. Could that be enough? Maybe it could, because we could be underselling Kelvin Harmon returning to the lineup. We could be underselling Cam Sims returning to the football team if, in fact, they decide to go that direction. We could be underselling AGG. He could be our number 2 wide receiver for all we know, 2 years down the road. So maybe Curtis Samuel is exactly what the doctor ordered. We don't need anything else. We got a bunch of young receivers, as I've stated many times. Got a lot of young guys, but it's the blind leading the blind. maybe Curtis Samuel is exactly what they need in this offense to give it a punch in the arm. And I can't say that he's not. I just wanted a bona fide number 2. That's my only gripe, is I don't see him as that. Doesn't mean he can't have number 2 production here. And it doesn't, number 2 production can come in a multitude of ways. You know, for Curtis Samuel, number 2 production may look like 67 catches for 927 yards, another 33 rushes for 319 yards. That's over 1,200 yards of production from a number 2 guy. I'll take it. And let's say that's attached to 7 touchdowns. I'll take it. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I just wanted a true number 2. But what's really going to help Terry is if they put a guy across from him that can run. That's what's really going to help Terry. And it can't just be a speed guy. He's got to be able to make plays. So that's why I'm so concerned with a legit number 2. Because you heard Richard Sherman. You heard what Dick Sherman had to say. He said, look, you know, that guy, Terry McLaurin, is a beast. And all they need is somebody opposite of him so that teams can't cloud him or double him, which is what teams were doing. Like, okay, somebody other than 17 is going to have to beat us. You got another guy? For us last year, the other guy was going to be either Logan Thomas or J.D. McKissick. And if you want to J.D. McKissick me to death, fine. Have him have 9 catches for 77 yards. Go right ahead. That's not going to beat me. You want Logan Thomas to do what he did against the Detroit Lions? Go right ahead. You know, or I think it was the Steelers game. What was it? 10 catches, barely 100 yards? Knock yourself out. We need a legit guy. And if that guy is Curtis Samuel, never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. So be it. It could be, to answer your question. Ovadar the Obtuse. Thank you for the super chat. Ovadar the Obtuse writes, what to do at middle linebacker and free safety? So that is another conversation that we were going to have tonight. Specifically free safety. I wasn't going to have the middle linebacker conversation because, as I mentioned, don't think there's much available in free agency. Jayon Brown is available. I told you that I wouldn't mind shopping at the Titan store, but I don't know if that's the direction they want to go in or not. Middle linebacker may be something they reserve for the draft. I think this is a much deeper linebacker draft than we've seen in the past. I got my first glimpse. Look, I'm not going to have that conversation with you tonight because I haven't watched film, but I indirectly got my first glimpse of Xavier Collins. I'm going to tell you this, much like with Zach Wilson, when I first laid eyes on him, I was like, oh, now I understand why everybody was so excited. I got my first glimpse of Xavier Collins. I don't remember who I was watching at the quarterback position. Yes, I do. I was watching Shane Buechele of SMU. Oh, my stars. Was Xavier Collins everywhere, and the guy can rush off the edge. I had to contain myself a bit because I got excited. There's a lot of film to watch that I haven't combed through. Obviously, I probably saw some of the best of Xavier Collins. I want to see what he looks like when he's not at his best. Anyway, I understand the excitement for him. I'm starting to get it now. But I digress. Free safety. Let's talk about the free safety position since you brought it up. I've made a list of the guys that are available that interest me. Now, not all these guys are guys that I would like to go after, and I will specify. But these are the names that interest me. Anthony Harris, Vikings free safety. He's 30 years old. I did not realize he was that old, okay? So we'll come back to that. Jaquaski Tart, 29-year-old San Francisco 49ers free safety. Trey Boston, I don't know what the infatuation is with Washington fans and Trey Boston. There have been a ton of fans that have been trying to get Trey Boston to Washington for the last 2-3 off seasons. Well, if you are a Trey Boston fan, this is the offseason that he would end up in Washington, because the team that couldn't seem to get enough Trey Boston, that was the Carolina Panthers, Ron Rivera and Marty Herney. They drafted him. They signed him back after letting him walk. If there were ever a team that would be interested in Trey Boston, it'd be this one. Now, I'm not interested in Trey Boston. I've never been interested in Trey Boston, but he's 29 years old. Justin Simmons, that's my guy. 28 years old, Denver Broncos, free safety. They franchise tagged him last year. Here's the problem. I'm not looking, again, I already said this, and I didn't think they would be interested. That's why I was shocked to hear us. But again, it's Lion season. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. It's Lion season. So just because there's a report out there that we're interested in Anthony Harris doesn't mean that we actually are. However, that could be his agent just looking to drive up the price. Look, at the end of the day, Justin Simmons is 28 years old. That's right in my wheelhouse. I'll take a 28-year-old safety. A lot of tread left on those tires. I don't want to pay the money that it's going to take to get Justin Simmons this year. I was willing to pay that last year. Why? Because we hadn't already spent money on the secondary. The only guy that we had back there at the time was Landon Collins. We hadn't drafted another safety that came in and lit it up, and Cameron Curl. We hadn't spent $10 million per year on the cornerback position for Kendall Fuller, and now we got to re-sign Darby. I don't know if I can take them spending more money in the secondary. Marcus May, former second-round draft pick of the New York Jets, 27 years old. He's very intriguing as a free safety. Again, going to cost you pretty penny. We'll get back to that in a second. Marcus Williams, New Orleans Saints free safety. This is more along the lines of where I want to be. 25 years old. Again, he's going to cost you a boatload of bread as well. Don't know if that's in our wheelhouse or not, but he's 25. I'll take a 25-year-old over a 27 or a 28 or even a 30-year-old, as Anthony Harris is. And then Malik Hooker rounds out the group. This is a name that I know a few fans out there have brought up, and I don't disagree with that. He's young. He's talented. He's had injuries, and he's not going to cost you a lot because of the lack of production in his young career. This is a former first-round pick, though, out of the Ohio State University. So I think he's looking to get a one-year prove-it deal, and if he can prove it, then he will parlay that into a big-time contract somewhere. So as we go back through this list, Anthony Harris is 30, and right now SportRack has him projected to command a contract that's going to pay him $14 million per year. So a 3-year, $42 million deal. Are you willing to give that up for a 30-year-old safety? I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm willing to do that. Justin Simmons, 28 years old. I love Justin Simmons. $15.4 million per year is what it's going to take, according to SportRack, to sign Justin Simmons to a long-term deal. Excuse me. So you're looking at a 4-year, $62 million contract for a guy like Justin Simmons. Again, are you willing to do that? And he's 28. Keep that in mind. Marcus May, former second-round pick of the New York Jets, 27 years old, a little bit younger. Interesting. That's a guy that you go back and you look and you say, hey, how did we feel about him when he was coming out of University of Florida? $13.2 million per year is what he's going to command, more likely than not, on the free agent market, according to SportRack. Again, a little too rich for my blood at the safety position when you're already paying Landon Collins $14 million per year. Again, just don't know if that's something I can stomach, paying close to $30 million in aggregate at the safety position per year for two safeties. Again, I don't know if Collins wasn't here, I'd be all in on Justin Simmons. All in. He's the kind of guy that changes the game. But again, we already did go all in on Landon Collins. And we had to at the time because we didn't get those kind of dudes. I was excited. I'm not going to backtrack now. I was excited when we signed Landon Collins. Marcus Williams, 25-year-old safety, going into his first non-rookie contract as a former, I believe he was a former second-round pick from the Saints out of Utah. $13.5 million for Marcus Williams, according to Sport Rack, as to what he will command on the free agent market. So, again, another high-priced safety. I just don't think that's where we are right now. Knowing what we're going to have to spend in the future, knowing that we're swinging and looking for a quarterback and trying to knock one out of the park, if you find a guy and you do knock it out of the park, you're going to have to pay him. I can't stress to you guys enough that eventually you're going to have to walk the walk all the way down the line. And it's like walking up steps, okay? It's going to happen just like that. It's Allen, it's Payne, it's Sweat, it's Young, and you're walking up the steps. And you may have to miss a step. I know you don't want to, but you may have to miss a step somewhere. Like Tim Settle, love him. He's gone. Can't have him back, all right? You may have to miss a step somewhere. Can't re-sign everybody. But I don't know what step they're planning on skipping. If I had to guess, I think it's going to be the Montez Sweat step. But we will see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Bottom line is, I don't see them being able to invest another big lofty contract in the secondary at this moment. Especially if it's non-cornerback related. So, I don't know. Malik Hooker looks more along the lines of a guy that I would be trying to sign if I were Washington. Similar to what the Browns did with former first-round pick Carl Joseph. 1 year prove-it deal in Cleveland, and he proved it. And now he's going to parlay that into a lucrative multi-year deal. That's what you do. You go, you find the former first-round pick that had limited to no success in his first stop, and you say, hey, come here, prove it. If you do, either we'll pay you or somebody else will. And I would be willing to take that with Malik Hooker because in my mind, what I'm telling myself is, just like last year when you brought Sean Davis in here, if his ass doesn't work out, either we get out of the deal before the season starts, or you bring him in, he doesn't play well, you always got Shays, you always got all of the guys that we had at the safety position last year. So I feel like Hooker is the guy that I would take because it's not going to cost you double digits. It's a 1 year 4.5, it's a 1 year $5 million deal to kick the tires. Much like, what was the Sean Davis deal? 1 year, $4.5 million, and most of it was incentive-based. It wasn't a lot of guarantees involved, and they cut his ass before the season started. One of those deals would do me just fine to find out if Malik Hooker is legit or not. So that would be the route I would go. Middle linebacker, I think, is something you handle in the draft, personally, myself. Thank you for the super chat, Ovadar the Obtuse. Got another super chat. This one is from Almost 100. Thank you for the super chat, Almost 100, who writes, Charlie Casserly's latest mock draft has Washington selecting the Notre Dame linebacker with two last names. Again, talked about him earlier in the show. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is the linebacker that you speak of. And again, wouldn't have a problem with it. Wouldn't have a problem with it at all if he were the selection at 19. Just like I wouldn't have a problem with them taking a corner if Ronald Darby it does not resign here. Just like I wouldn't have a problem with them selecting a wide receiver if they're not able to sign one in free agency, or they got their eye on a particular guy and he chooses to sign elsewhere. Whatever. I just don't see how you strike out in free agency at the receiver position. I've already gone through that list multiple times with you guys. There's just too many viable candidates and options out there. I just don't know how you don't come away with something that makes you excited. It's too many good receivers out here for anyone to get left without a chair. If in this game of musical chairs at the receiver position, there are enough chairs that when the music stops, you don't even have to rush. You can comfortably collect yourself and find which chair you want to sit at. There's enough for everybody to get one. So I don't see that being an issue, but Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is the linebacker you speak of. And again, I see that guy being a big difference maker on this defense if he were selected. Ishmael Benitez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ishmael Benitez writes, Cam said he intimidated the Panthers organization on I Am Athlete. I think Ron likes Taylor and Kyle. When he said that, he was talking about the new regime in Carolina. He wasn't speaking of Ron or Marty Hurney. Remember, Marty Hurney was the guy that drafted him. I can tell you that Cam, to a lesser degree, intimidated Jerry Richardson, but I think Jerry Richardson was a undercover racist anyway. But that's nor here nor there. That's a different story for another day. At the end of the day, I remember, it's almost like somebody, coming up to you and using stereotypes to tell you all the things you can't do without even knowing who you are. Like, I remember when they drafted Cam, before Cam even got settled, he was like, you're going to not have a bunch of flashy jewelry and you're not going to have tattoos. And I'm like, whoa. Who the hell you think you talking to, man? Like, chill out. You wouldn't do that shit to Tom Brady when you signed him. But again, I'm going down a road I don't need to go down. I don't think he was talking about Ron or Marty or Martin Mayhew, or any of those guys. Well, not Mayhew, but Marty Hurney and Ron Rivera when he said he intimidated that organization. He was talking about David Tepper and their new coach, Matt Rule. He feels like he intimidated them, especially ownership, meaning David Tepper. He felt like he intimidated them. And he probably did. And so they just didn't want to deal with him. And, Cam gets this bad rap. I was reading some of the comments in the comment section from the video that I just posted a couple of days ago asking you guys if you were interested in Cam. And, one of the comments that always gets under my skin, and I bite my tongue because I don't want to say something that I don't need to say. But it always infuriates me when someone says, we don't need that distraction. He's a me guy, and he's going to come in here and he's going to cause all of this distraction with his shenanigans. One of those types of old man, get off my lawn type of comments. They don't know Cam Newton. When a guy like Colin Cowherd says Cam Newton's a me guy, he's an I guy, look at me. They don't know Cam Newton. I've never heard one teammate come out and say Cam Newton is selfish. I've heard teammates say that about Aaron Rodgers. I've never heard anyone say that about Cam Newton. Not a single one. I've never heard of Cam Newton doing anything that would embarrass him or his family off the field. I've never heard of anything but Cam Newton going out and delivering meals on Thanksgiving. Yes, is he a little bit eccentric? You're damn right he is. But that's who he is. And that's what they were talking about on the show. He's done it his way. Ruffled some feathers along the way. That's fine if you don't like the way I dress. Jeff Garcia had something to say a couple of years ago. Shut up. Shut up, Jeff Garcia. That's the kind of stuff that pisses me off. But at the same time, people take those things and they turn them into negative connotations when it comes to Cam. He's not a good teammate. He's all about himself. He's selfish. I watched the Amazon Prime show when they follow a team for a season. I forgot what it's called. But every year they do it. They've done it with the Cardinals and the Eagles and the Panthers and the Cowboys. And I watched the one with the Panthers a few years ago. And Cam I remember the Panthers got off to a great start that season. Started off the season something like 6-2. And then they really struggled. Cam got injured. But this is what everybody failed to realize. He was playing hurt for about a good 5-week stretch, and they were losing all these games. And he wasn't right. He couldn't even practice. And you're watching him come to the facility, and he can barely, keep his arm up. But he's there. He's watching film. He's in great spirits. He tries to get out there on Friday just to do a little something, loosen it up. And nobody's talking about that. It's just how bad of a teammate he is, how selfish he is. Bullshit. But again, I went off on a tangent. You didn't ask me about Cam Newton. You asked me about Ron liking Taylor and Kyle. I think not only Ron likes Taylor and Kyle, I think more importantly, Scott Turner likes Taylor and Kyle. Remember, it was Scott Turner that pushed Ron Rivera to give up a 5th-round pick to go get Kyle Allen. It was Scott Turner that said, hey, we need one of these quarantine quarterbacks. You saw what happened in Denver. Don't want to get caught with our pants down. I got just the guy. For our quarterback that we'll have in quarantine. That was Scott Turner, man. So, yeah, Ron likes those guys, but you know who else likes those guys? Scott Turner likes those guys a lot. And I think that matters just as much as Ron liking those guys as well. Almost 100. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Almost 100. Who writes, word on the street is that there is an extension on the way for Sheriff, 4 years, $65 million. Let's see what the total is. Let's see what the damage is on that. 70 would be 18, I believe. So you're not at 18 with that, if that is in fact the true, if those are accurate numbers, essentially. You're not quite at 18 with that deal. And I think that's what it's ultimately going to take. That's a $16.25 million deal. It's an upgrade per year over what he made last year with the franchise tag, which was $14 million. But that's not what they're going off of. What they're looking at is, hey, what's that deal that Zach Martin got a couple of years ago? Yeah, that 5-year, $90 million joint or whatever it was, $85 million. What's that deal that the dude in Philadelphia got, Brandon Brooks? Yeah, that extension he had, the 3-year, 60 whatever million or 58 or whatever million was crazy. Yeah, we looking at those figures. And Brandon Brooks is the highest paid guard per average, annual salary. I think at around 17 or 18 million. He's gonna want to one up him. So I don't think those numbers get it done personally. But Sheriff may be willing to take slightly less to stay in Washington. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think that number has to be more along the lines of 4 years, 71 or 72, not 65. We'll see. I hope you're right. If they're going to get a deal done, I just want them to get the deal done, personally. Got another super chat. This one is from Atypical Brother. Thank you for the super chat, Atypical Brother. Feel like it's been a while hearing from you as well, but glad to hear from you. Atypical Brother, my man AB writes, what up, Lou? Hypothetical. How do you feel about Teddy Bridgewater being here? You know how I feel about that. He says, a better quarterback or a lateral move. The Panthers are looking for another quarterback via the draft or trade, and that created consternation between Tampa Bay and Carolina. I already told you I want no parts of Teddy Bridgewater. I've made it abundantly clear on this show, on the podcast, and any other show that I've done on this platform and this brand. He's the Black Alex Smith. We're trying to currently run the originator, the OG Alex, out of town, okay? We don't want any more of that. We don't want seconds of the OG Alex. Why would I want to bring the black version of him to DC? So yes, to me that would be a lateral move, one that I don't think that it's a. First of all, Carolina doesn't have a quarterback, and they signed him to a very, very, a very, very doable deal. Like it's a very team-friendly contract. And yet they're trying to get out of it because he stinks. And it's not that he's just trash. It's just that Teddy Bridgewater is Alex Smith. I really don't need to explain myself any further. You know what you're getting. He'll keep you in ball games. He'll give you a shot. He'll throw you out of some ball games. That's probably the biggest difference between he and Alex is that Teddy's going to have a game where he throws 2 interceptions, 3. And Alex had some of those this year. Anyway, I digress. I don't want any parts of Teddy Bridgewater. And I've said this a million times already. I want one of 2 guys at the quarterback position, or else I just want to keep it status quo. Either you're giving me an easy upgrade, one that is easily digestible. Derek Carr is an easy upgrade. Matthew Stafford would have been an easy upgrade. Watson, easy upgrade. That's easy to see, easy to digest. We just got an upgrade. Or you're giving me a guy with upside. That's Sam Darnold. That's Marcus Mariota. And for some of you, Mariota doesn't have any upside. That's fine. We can agree to disagree. But for me, that's Mariota. That's Sam Darnold. Okay, that's one of those types of quarterbacks. If it's not, I don't want Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm not interested in Teddy Bridgewater. Those are lateral moves. We don't need that. We got those kinds of guys already on the roster at worst. At worst. Kyle Allen is the equivalent of Teddy Bridgewater. At worst. At worst, Taylor Heineke is the equivalent of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Why? Where's the psychological sense in that, player? If you think that's a good idea, you need to wash your face and get your mind right. And I'm not speaking to you specifically, atypical brother. I'm just in general saying anybody that thinks that's a good idea, you need to go to the face basin. Okay? Turn on the right faucet, not the left one. I don't want you getting any hot water. You need some cold water so they can wake your ass up. We trying to win tomorrow. You see what I did there? Maybe you did, maybe you did. Anyway. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't interest me in the least. I don't see how he could if you're a Washington fan. If Teddy Bridgewater tickles your fancy, you're damaged beyond repair as a Washington football team fan. Let me just say that. If you think bringing Teddy Bridgewater here solves anything long term, I don't even want him as a stopgap. But if you think that solves anything here, then you are damaged more so than the rest of us. Because we've been in the quarterback wilderness for well over 2 decades. That's been chronicled. Really, it's probably more like 3 decades. It's been a long damn time since we've had a franchise quarterback, man. It's been rough. We had one and we ran him out of town. You don't want me to go down that road because you know I will. And some of us are more scarred than others. We're starving over here for some quarterback play, man. I've said this already. We starving, man. I'm still vegan, though. Okay? As hungry as I am, I don't want your red meat, man. I don't want your eggs. I don't want your dairy products. I'm still vegan over here. But for some of y'all, you don't give a shit. They could throw out a moldy, rat-infested piece of cheese and you like, man, I'm going to gobble that shit up. Don't just take anything because you're starving, man. Still be selective. We gonna eat eventually. That's what I'm saying. If you told me, hey, you got no choice, you're starving and this is all you got, and there's no help coming, you better eat this. Okay, we don't have to take Teddy Bridgewater. We don't have to take Ryan Fitzpatrick. Don't just eat something because it's there. Don't do it. Wait until we get something that is actually appetizing to eat. Thank you for that super chat. Atypical brother. I want to stop for a second and just encourage you guys who are out there to, one, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, if you haven't already done so, please hit the like button, okay? There are over 360 of you out there, only 83 likes. Gotta get this thing to up over 100. So if you haven't hit the like button, please, please, please hit the like button. Really do appreciate you guys greatly. Almost 100. Thank you for tripling up. Really appreciate you. Almost 100. Who writes, Lou, do you take Xavier Collins at 19? I got to watch more. I can't definitively give you an answer right now. I told you, I just got exposed to him, and what I saw was pretty damn juicy, okay? But that's not all of the Xavier Collins story. You know, that's why I don't consume highlights, because that only tells half of the story. Highlights are great when you want to hype a guy up. But what happens when he's not having a good game? Or why did he not have a good game? I need to see that too. Just right now, off of what I've seen, the little that I've seen, he's intriguing at 19. We'll see. I can't answer that right now. Kalen Meekins, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Kalen Meekins, who writes, will we see trade backs with this cap situation in the draft? You very well could see some trade. I don't think the cap is going to dictate whether a team wants to select in the first round or not. If you're that strapped for cash that you can't pay a first round pick, okay, that may make a little bit of sense. But for the most part, you're more inclined to pick a guy in the draft because you love him and you think this guy can make a difference, and you're not really worried about being. Teams usually have enough money allocated to get their draft pick signed. That's not an issue. So you're not thinking about, oh my God, how, like, this isn't this isn't 2003 when a guy like Sam Bradford as the number 1 overall pick could hold out and wait for a massive deal. And guys that hadn't played a single snap in the league were getting paid infinitely more than guys that had proven themselves as 6-7 year veterans. That's no longer the case. There's a rookie wage scale. You know how these guys are going to be slotted. So you can already set that money aside. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think if you see trades back in the draft, all that indicates is either the guy that they wanted isn't there, they don't feel like there's great value here, or they feel like there is more concentrated value where they're going. So I'll give you an example of why a team would trade back. And I'll give you several examples. One, and I just gave you 3, so I'll go over each of those scenarios. The first is that they wanted a guy. And let's just say that it's Patrick Surtain at 19 that Washington covets. They weren't able to re-sign Ronald Darby. Surtain is the guy. They'll take Caleb Farley or Surtain. If either one of them falls to him, they're pulling the trigger. No questions asked. They're turning the card in with 3 minutes left on the draft clock. Okay? They already know what they want. All right, and let's say we get to 17. And Farley's gone already. He came off the board at 10 to Denver or somebody like that. And let's say it's not until 17 that Patrick Surtain comes off the board. Now Watson's like, shit, we missed our guy. And generally, if a guy gets that close and you want him bad enough, you just go up and get him. But let's just say they were hoping he fell into their lap. And he doesn't. He's gone at 17. Now they're picking up the phone and they're working the phones. Like, okay, that's the guy we wanted. We don't see any value here at 19 now. We don't want a receiver. We don't want any of the tackles that are left. We don't want any of the quarterbacks that are left here. We don't see significant value. The one linebacker that we thought was worthy of being selected here was the Penn State linebacker. He's gone already. So there's no value for us here. We want out. They pick up the phone. They start calling teams to see if they're interested in coming up to 19. That's one scenario. Another scenario is you look at where you're sitting and you just don't see the value, but you say to yourself, if I move back 5 spaces, I'm right in the sweet spot that I feel like I get more bang for my buck. Maybe taking a guy here at 19 doesn't make a ton of sense, but going back to 24 makes me feel better and I pick up draft capital. Or let's say moving all the way back to 30, 31 makes me feel better. A team is desperate. Their guys at 19, they come up. You say, hey, I still want to have that 5th year option. So I don't want to go all the way out of the first round, but I don't see any value here. I feel like we can move back to 31 and the same guys that we were looking at will still be available. There are 3 guys that we have honed in on, and we feel like one of those 3 will be available at 31. We're pretty sure of it, as a matter of fact. And so you move back to 31. The value isn't at 19. It's more at 31. So those are the kinds of scenarios you find yourself in when you decide to trade back. I think there are more value picks to be made further back in the draft, or you may say, hey, I want to go with the quantity over quality model this year, or in this particular instance. We see Seattle do it all the time. I think last year was the first time in the last 6 or 7 drafts where they've actually made a first round pick because they always trade out of the first round. So, and as we know, they traded 2 first rounders for Jamal Adams, so they won't have a first round in the next couple of years. They don't care about first round picks. They much rather have 3 4ths, 3 5ths, 2 6ths, and 2 7ths. That's Seattle's model. We'll find a guy in the back end. I don't think you're going to see the cap impact the draft at all. Hey, what up, New Strike? What's going on? Got another super chat. This one is from Rob U. Thank you for your 5th. I believe we might even be at 6. Thank you for your 5th super chat of the night. Rob U, who writes, could Reuben Foster be the answer at middle linebacker? He might be. And these are the things we don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know how the staff feels about Reuben Foster. I told you, I don't like counting on guys, one, that we haven't seen in a Washington uniform. And 2, I don't like counting on guys that aren't currently under contract, which Reuben Foster is not. Okay, so if they re-sign Reuben Foster, that means they're going to give him an opportunity, not to necessarily be the starting middle linebacker, but just to compete, which is all you can ask for if you're Reuben Foster at this point of your career. So he could be. We could be sitting on the answer at middle linebacker already, but I don't think, nor should they, be willing to count on Reuben Foster as the answer at middle linebacker. They've got to have another option already waiting there, even if they think, because Reuben Foster is a guy that you can move around. I think you can move Reuben Foster to strong side linebacker or weak side linebacker. I think he's probably better suited as a strong side backer, and then maybe you move Cole Holcomb to weak side backer. But, you know, I don't know if they want to start juggling around, linebackers and guys that are playing a position for them already that are comfortable. At the end of the day, Reuben Foster could be the answer, and they could be saying, you know what? Reuben is a guy that we feel like can get back to 100%. And if he does, even if he doesn't work out, say he gets injured, he re-aggravates something, whatever the case may be, we still got John Bostic. They could be thinking that. They could be thinking that in their minds. We're all hoping that is not the case, but they like them some John Bostic for whatever reason. I can't tell you why. They do. Rob U also writes, thank you for your 6th super chat. We windshield wiping now. My man Rob U writes, Could Tim Settle be a trade chip on draft day? He could, but it's not going to net you a ton of stuff. But I mean, if you're trying to make a deal and they need a solid young player, he could be a guy that's a throw in on a deal. If you want to net a 5th round selection, you could trade Tim Settle for a 5th rounder. I could see that happening, but I don't know if he'll be a guy they look to flip on draft day or not. He's definitely a candidate because he's on the last year of his rookie deal, but I don't know if that's something they would entertain or not. I don't know if they're looking to move Tim Settle because you still need depth along your defensive line. If let's say that they get a guy that they really are high on, and let's say they're high on this guy in the 3rd round, and they get him in the 3rd round with one of their 2 third-round selections, and they're really excited about this defensive tackle. Got a really high grade on him. They had a 2nd-round grade on him, and they get him in the 3rd round. Maybe that allows them to pick up the phone on day 3 of the draft to move Tim Settle. Now all of a sudden he becomes expendable. That could be the case, but again, anything could happen. That same guy that I just referenced could tear his ACL on the 2nd day of rookie minicamp. And just like that, you traded Tim Settle away and you got nothing in terms of depth at defensive tackle. And I don't know if they want to put themselves in that position because we really didn't have any depth at defensive tackle last year. If you think about it, really it was Tim Settle and that was it once Ioannidis went down. So, if you trade Settle and you're supposed to be getting back Caleb Brantley this year because he was on the COVID list, maybe they feel comfortable with Caleb Brantley and Matt Ioannidis and a young guy, or just Caleb Brantley and Matt Ioannidis, and they trade Tim Settle. Not out of the realm of possibility, especially when and they may already know, we don't want Tim back. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Tim had a really good season last year. I thought he kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. But Tim had a really good season last year. So they probably want him back. And I don't think this is a Ryan Anderson situation. Remember him? Easy to forget him. He didn't hardly even play last year. But remember, they tried to move Ryan Anderson last year. There were rumors during the offseason, and they Ron tried to talk him up. We have a plan for Ryan Anderson. No, you don't. You wanted to move him, and you couldn't find a willing trade partner, and so you had to eat it. You just had to hold on to him for the whole year. And by the time we got to week 5, he was inactive pretty much the remainder of the season. He got hurt early in the season. They made him inactive, and they just said, F it. We just going to roll with Casey Toohill and James Smith-Williams. So I don't think they're going to do that to Tim Settle, but he could be a trade day chip that they try to move. Protect Sports Network. Thank you for the super chat and tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. Protect Sports Network writes, how far do we have to trade up for Fields? My guess would be, technically speaking, I wouldn't be interested in trading up for Fields if I were Washington until after the Falcons make their selection. Because the prevailing thought right now is that 3 quarterbacks are coming off the board in the first 4 picks. 1 to Jacksonville, 2 to the Jets, and 4 to the Falcons. After that, that's when it gets interesting because do the Eagles take a quarterback at 6? They could take Justin Fields at 6. They could take Trey Lance or whomever is left at 6. And we don't even get into, are the Lions going to take a quarterback at 7? We know the Panthers are desperate. Will they take a quarterback at 8? We don't even get into that scenario if the Eagles say, beat you to it. We're going to take them at 6. That's, to me, where you would have to trade up. You'd have to trade with the Eagles at 6. More likely than not, if you wanted Justin Fields. And just because they're the Eagles, they're in a division, we're hated rivals, you talking with some sense, they'll move out of 6 if they don't have any interest in taking a quarterback and, they want more picks instead of just one guy at 6. Look, they lost the game against us on purpose so that they could have the 6th pick in the draft. I don't think they have any intentions of trading it. But, draft day is a sumbitch. And you get there and somebody starts talking crazy with compensation and you're like, I don't know, man. That's pretty damn enticing. I don't know if I can pass that up. So we'll see what ultimately happens with, the Eagles and how far you have to trade up. Theoretically speaking, 3. It's because we don't know what the Falcons are going to do. Let's just go with the premise that Jags take Lawrence and then the Jets take Wilson. Okay. Well, the Falcons could want to bring the Georgia boy home. They could want to bring Justin Fields home and take him at 4. But they could say, you know what? We want Trey Lance. We got a young guy here in Lance that we think needs to develop. We still got Matt Ryan, and we think he's going to play another 2 years. So Trey Lance can sit for 2 years and develop, and then we can play him. And they could pass on Fields. Well, now Fields is out there kind of, dangling around. And the thought is either Detroit takes him at 7 or Carolina takes him at 8. That's when if I'm Washington and I really like Justin Fields, I tell myself that if he gets past Atlanta at 4, that's when it gets interesting. 5 or 6 is where you would have to go. If you're not sure if the Eagles are going to take a quarterback, you go to 5. You pick up the phone and you call whoever the 5th pick in the draft is, and you say, "Hey, look, what is it going to take for us to come up and get Justin Fields?" That's what we want. We want the quarterback. So I would tell you 3 because you don't know what Atlanta's going to do. But if I were Washington, I wouldn't be willing to go up any higher than 5, personally, myself. So that's how far I think you would have to go for Justin Fields. Thank you for the super chat, Barrett Downing. Greatly appreciate you as always, my man BD. Clumsy Jedi 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Clumsy Jedi 26, who writes, "I want to draft Mac Jones. He's a franchise quarterback." If they decided to go that route, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't love him at 19. I've already made that abundantly clear. But Rivera himself has already said, and this is what makes me think that he's a viable option at 19. In the press conference, I think he was specifically talking about Mac Jones when he answered this question, when he was in on the Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew general manager press conference. He was asked about having a mobile quarterback, and he was very, very he vehemently described a situation in which we don't have to have a guy that has wheels. You'd like your quarterback to be able to run, but we feel like if you can work from the pocket and distribute the ball and know where to go with it, that you can flourish in our scheme, and you don't have to be a runner to do that. So I think he was specifically referencing Mac Jones when he spoke about that. And I do think they are considering Mac Jones at 19. I do think they want a guy with some wheels. They don't want a stationary target back there. But push comes to shove, if they view Mac Jones as a guy that can read the defense, a smart guy, they sit down, they talk to him, which they probably already have at the Senior Bowl. And they're able to kind of decipher that this kid has it. He's smart. He's a quick study. We can bring him into this offense, and we think he'll be able to be cerebral, get the football to our playmakers and let them do the rest of the work like he did at Alabama. Then maybe he is a franchise quarterback. You know how I am about immobile quarterbacks in today's NFL. If he's not Tom Brady, if he's not Drew Brees, if he's not Phillip Rivers, if his pocket and I told you, I broke him down already. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, do so. I put out all those quarterback videos already. He's not a guy that's calm and collected and cool in the pocket when it gets murky. He had just the most outstanding protection at Alabama. I mean, this guy's pockets, 80% of the time were just squeaky clean. And so he's just back there massaging the ball, looking around. And a lot of times his guys won, so he didn't have to hold it too long. But even when he did, this guy was building a house back there a lot of times. But you could see when shit got tight, when that guard got blown back a bit, or that center is getting his ass walked back, or that edge rusher is getting pressure, he gets antsy, feet get happy, and now all of a sudden he's uncomfortable. And he's not going to run anywhere. We know that. So that's what I worry about. That's what I worry about. If you're going to be, you don't have to be Kyler Murray or Joe Burrow or, Russell Wilson or Justin Herbert to be successful. You don't have to be Josh Allen to be elite in this league. Although it helps to be athletic and be able to extend. If you can be a beast and be cerebral from the pocket, as we see with Tom Brady, it still works and you can still win with that. But you better be damn good within the confines of the pocket. You better be comfortable in any weather in the pocket. If it's snowing, you better still be comfortable. If it's hailing, and I'm not talking about the weather, I'm talking about the conditions in the pocket. It can't be 70 degrees and comfortable in the pocket like it was at Alabama. It's not going to be that way in the NFL. Okay? It's going to get cold in the pocket sometimes. It's going to get hot in the pocket sometimes. You're going to be uncomfortable. All right? And you're going to have to be able to operate if you can't run in that pocket. And I'm not sure that Mac Jones can do that at all times. And I explained this too. How does he handle adversity? This was a guy that at Alabama, Nick Saban went out of his way to praise for his maturity. But you can see when he makes a mistake, it affects him. When he makes a mistake, it affects him. He throws an interception. He fumbled the ball. I talked about the play against Ohio State in the national championship game. He was beating himself up on the sidelines. Now, he came back out and he played well. But I don't want a guy that gets down on himself too much for making a mistake. Shit's going to happen. It's the NFL. Everybody's good. So there's some questions. And I didn't have enough empirical evidence to be able to say, oh, no, we good here. Same thing with Trey Lance. I didn't have enough games to say, hey, we're good. If he throws 3 picks in one game, he's going to be just fine. If his team loses 2 games in a row and he didn't play well, he'll be just fine. I didn't get enough of a sample size to be able to say that. These are all things you got to take into consideration. Mac Jones may be a franchise quarterback. I'm not saying that he's not. I just say I got questions. More questions than I would like to have for a guy that I'm spending the 19th overall pick on. That's all. Calvin Krim, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Calvin Krim. And I saw your super chat late. You posted that pretty much as I was getting off, as I was hitting the end stream button. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad to see you back today. My man Calvin Krim writes, hey Lou, what round do you see Mills and Ellinger going? I talked about both of those guys. Both of those videos are up. Davis Mills, I have as a day 3 quarterback. I think he's going to go somewhere in the 4th, 5th round. Ellinger, I said I would be willing to spend a late 2nd day pick, so meaning 3rd round, or an early day 3 pick or 4th round pick. I think Ellinger probably ultimately comes off the board in the 4th round. But I could see a team seeing the mobility, seeing some of the intangibles that he has, seeing some things that are very workable traits and the makings of a starting caliber quarterback with time. And I can see somebody pulling the trigger on him in the 3rd round. But I ultimately think both of those guys are day 3 quarterbacks. And I think both of them come off the board relatively early in day number 3, Mills and Ellinger. But Mills, I don't think, is a day 2 quarterback at all. Ellinger, I think, has an outside shot of being a day 2 quarterback, a late day 2 quarterback. But I do think he's going to ultimately end up, both of them, rather, in day number 3, personally. Christian Clout. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Christian. Greatly appreciate you. My man Christian Clout writes, on defense, would re-sign Darby, go after Pat Peterson, move him to free safety, and move Collins to weak side linebacker? Immediate impact, what do you think? So here's the flaw in what you just proposed. The first thing you proposed, I think a lot of us are on board with you there. I don't want to speak for the masses. I can speak for myself. I definitely want to re-sign Ronald Darby. Where we start to get into some flawed thinking is with Patrick Peterson. One, Patrick Peterson isn't leaving the Arizona Cardinals to come sign with Washington. Again, this is what we talked about at the top of the show, okay? You have to recognize as a Washington football team fan where you are in the pantheon of teams in this league. If I'm Patrick Peterson, I have not won a Super Bowl in my career. I'd like to win a Super Bowl. Do you think that's going to be accomplished in Washington in the next 3 years? Because Patrick Peterson, I don't know if you noticed, he's getting up there in age. So he doesn't have a ton of time left. So I don't think he's looking to go to the 7-9 Washington team without a quarterback. If he's going to do that, he'd probably much rather stay in Arizona. They're a lot closer, despite not making the playoffs. They're a lot closer to winning the Super Bowl than we are. So, again, Patrick Peterson probably doesn't want to come to Washington, but I'll take it a step further. Let's remove that from the equation. Who says that Patrick Peterson wants to play safety? Like, he's not looking to play safety. He still thinks he's one of the best corners in the league. You think he wants to move to free safety? This isn't college. You don't recruit a guy and say, hey, we know we recruited you as a receiver, but we want you to play cornerback. That's not how this works. He's a 30-year-old veteran with 9 or 10 years of cornerback experience under his belt and about 3 or 4 years of being labeled as the best cornerback in the game. You really think, and he still thinks he's playing at a high level, and he is, not as high as he once was, but he's still playing at a relatively high level. You really think he's looking to make the transition to free safety right now? Maybe he will at some point in his career. That point is not right now. So I think that's flawed thinking. And then moving Collins to linebacker, I've stated this already, much like I just with Patrick Peterson. How do you know Landon Collins is willing to play linebacker? One, I don't think Landon Collins is a linebacker, period. He's not physical enough to be a linebacker. He's not big enough to be a linebacker. If you're going to do that, you might as well put Khaleke Hudson in the game. You'll get the same kind of play, but a guy that is naturally a linebacker. Because Khaleke Hudson is about 225, 227. Landon Collins is like 215. And even if he puts on weight, he's still not a physical guy at the point of attack. Like this notion of let's just move Landon Collins to linebacker. He's not a linebacker. And it takes a special guy to be undersized, like Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard said this year, I'm playing at the weight that I feel most comfortable at. He's 215. But guess what? Darius Leonard is a man. He's a grown-ass man at 215, playing like he's 245 because he's got a linebacker's mentality. So he doesn't care if that pulling guard's coming around to get him. Either he's going to make him miss and get to the ball carrier, or he's going to blow his big ass up. Either way, he's going to get to the football. Landon Collins isn't thinking like that. He's a safety. He wants no part of that 322-pound guard pulling around. He doesn't want any part of that. He don't want any part of that as a safety. What makes you think he wants a part of that as a linebacker? He didn't sign here to play linebacker. He signed here to be a safety. There's nothing that indicates Landon Collins wants to make the transition, and there's nothing that indicates that Washington is looking to transition Landon Collins to linebacker. That's just something that somebody made up. People said, that's a good idea, and they ran with it. Landon Collins isn't playing linebacker. Unless we hear that from Landon Collins himself, which I don't think we're going to hear, because, again, this is a guy that was once a Pro Bowler. You know, he's not looking to play linebacker. He thinks he's still one of the best safeties in football. He's not leaving his position. So I think all of that is flawed, except for Darby. I don't see how you get Patrick Peterson here and then convince him. First of all, you get him here, and then you convince him, hey, we want you to play free safety. I don't see that happening. And then Collins moving to weak side linebacker. I don't see that happening either. And he would have to want to do that. And I don't think he wants to do that. I'd much rather have Cameron Curl play weak side linebacker. At least I know he ain't afraid. He plays with a linebacker's mentality. If you were going to move somebody to weak side linebacker, because we already know Cameron Curl can drop over the slot, which is what your weak side linebacker does a lot of the time. Just playing in the slot. Cameron Curl did it last year. That's the Buffalo position, the big nickel. They call it Buffalo. That's what Cam Curl already does. Like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. You put Landon Collins back at strong safety. You put Cameron Curl at the big nickel, the Buffalo position, and you keep it moving. Like, why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? We got a formula here. Thank you for the super chat, Christian Clout. Kevin the PRF. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Kevin the PRF, my man Kev, writes, listening to you trash these free agent quarterbacks reminds me when you were going over Mond earlier. P.S. I want Louie T selfie if we take Mond with a high pick. Hey, if we take Kellen Mond with a high, what is a high pick, first of all? But I need you to describe to me what constitutes a high pick, because, you know, taking Kellen Mond in the third round is a lot earlier than I would take him, but you got 2 third rounders. He's not, I don't think he gets selected before day 3, honestly speaking. If he got selected in the third round, I wouldn't be shocked, but I think he's more of a day 3 guy. But Kellen Mond isn't as bad as I thought. And I know I destroyed Kellen Mond 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago. But I told you, I do some of this from time to time without the requisite knowledge. And this is why I always try to tell you guys, I don't want to talk draft until I watch these guys, because I have these preconceived notions of what I've seen watching them on Saturdays. Watching them on Saturdays and then watching film, 2 totally different entities. You think you know, but sometimes the film tells a different story. And with Kellen Mond, the film did that for me a bit. But another guy that a lot of you is like, you're wrong about Kadarius Toney. I've seen more, obviously, watching Kyle Trask. I ran into more Kadarius Toney. I'm not moving off of my position that he is Curtis Samuel. I think he's a better version of Curtis Samuel coming into the league. But if you ask me right now, is Kadarius Toney right now coming into the league where Curtis Samuel is going into free agency? I would tell you yes. Curtis Samuel didn't come into the league as a natural wide receiver. He was more of an athlete. And he had to evolve, and he continued to evolve into a wide receiver. But I think where he is right now, he is a receiver. He can play in the slot. He can make some plays. Kadarius Toney is the same guy. However, I will say Kadarius Toney is not quite the running back that Curtis Samuel is. You know, but he does get carries. They do find ways to get him the football in different situations. But I think he's more of a receiver than Curtis Samuel coming into the league, if that makes sense. But I digress. Kellen Mond is not as bad as you guys think. And as I tried to portray him as. Let me say that as well. All right, so I think that was the last super chat. Nope, it's not. I got another super chat here. I'm gonna take that. Let me see if. Yep, I got one more super chat right here. This next super chat is from Justin Moody. Thank you for the super chat, Justin Moody. Greatly appreciate you. My man Justin writes, I think we should go all in for Juju in free agency. He's a perfect fit for our offense, Louie. I don't think that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to end up here. Again, when you've played with a Hall of Fame quarterback, you're not looking to then go and play with question mark, dot. That's generally not how this goes. You know, I think a lot of times we as fans don't take those types of things into consideration. I shouldn't lump myself in there because I do. And I always stress this to you guys that Juju is being pursued by teams like the Jets very heavily. Why would he be interested in going to the Jets? Because he watches college football and knows that Trevor Lawrence is a stud. Or that they're going to end up with Zach Wilson and he's a stud too. Like he knows he's walking into a situation where they've got a guy, or at least a guy that I think I can grow and build with. And it's been made known that those teams are going to be willing to throw top dollar at him. Is Washington going to do that for a guy that isn't a speed demon? Like they were willing to go all in on Amari Cooper because Amari Cooper's a 4-3 guy. So they were willing to go in on Amari Cooper because he's one of the best route runners in the league and he's a 4-3 guy. Juju Smith-Schuster is not a 4-3 guy. He's not a burner by any stretch of the imagination. And while he's very consistent, reliable hands, does all the dirty work, I don't know if they're looking to pay the kind of money that he's going to demand on the free agent market for a guy that can't stretch the football field vertically. I think that's why they were all in on Amari Cooper. He was young, which Juju Smith-Schuster is, very young. So he does check that box. Amari Cooper is an exceptional route runner. Smith-Schuster isn't exceptional, but he's good enough. And then Amari Cooper can take the top off of a defense. Juju Smith-Schuster can't do that. So I don't think that Washington would be willing to go all in on him. If you're going to go all in on somebody, they'd probably more likely be Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay or somebody like that, that you know has bona fide number one traits written all over them. That said, I don't think Juju is what we're looking for necessarily. And I don't think Juju is checking for Washington in free agency either. So there's that as well. Got another super chat. This one is from my guy, Kevin the PRF. Thank you for tripling up, Kev. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, I saw a mock having Parsons sliding to the 20s due to hazing allegations. That's crazy, but striking distance maybe. You were the one that brought that to my attention in the comment section. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't gotten to the linebacker position. I haven't done my homework there. I'll just say that if hazing allegations are true, I don't know if that's enough. I mean, who are we hazing? Underclassmen? I mean, what are we doing? Is this a fraternity? Is this a teammate that's a freshman? If that's what we're talking about, nah. He ain't sliding down draft boards because of that. I mean, even if he stuck a broom in someone's rectum, I still don't know. Now, that's some serious shit, man, if he did that. And again, I don't even know what the allegations are. When I hear hazing, it could be anything. You know, we hear about all kinds of different types of hazing, which a lot of universities and teams have gotten rid of altogether because it's just not something that's enjoyable, you know, for anybody involved, really. But if it's something like that, if it's just hazing, I'm still taking him at 7 if I'm Detroit. You know, now if you tell me there's a domestic violence claim and there's something, you know, you've talked to some people that you can substantiate it, and you're like, hey, wait a minute, you know, maybe we need to be careful with this dude. He might be bad news. Hazen, I don't know if I'm moving off the spot. You know, somebody will take him. I don't know. Again, I don't know the details of it. If it's some really, really bad shit, and you're like, man, it takes a really bad human being to do some shit like this, because Hazen sounds trivial. You know, you tell me it's some kind of assault charge that we're dealing with here, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's hear the details of this thing. And if it's some really graphic and really violent shit, and you're like, you're capable of this? I don't know, man. Then but we already know this to be a fact. Okay? In football specifically, if you are talented, we're willing to look the other way. You said something about an assault. I didn't see it. I didn't hear about it. We'll look the other way in football. All right? So, there's a chance he could slide. I don't know if he gets to us in 19, though. All it takes is one team to be like, man, damn what you heard. This guy's a top 5 talent, and he's sliding. I'm going to take him at 12. I'm going to take him at 13. I'm going to take him at 15. All it takes is one. All it takes is one. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens as we get closer and closer. And remember, what time of the year is it? Lion time. Whoo! So, you know, be careful what information is being put out there. That's all I'm saying. There may be validity to this. I'm not saying that there's not. But if I'm Washington at 19, you know what I'm telling everybody? That Parson kid, he's a bad apple. That was some terrible shit he did. I'm leaking all the details to any beat reporter I can get it to. Hey, you go and spill the beans. You do my dirty work for me. You know why? Because I want them to fall to me. So you can't buy everything, which is why I say believe half of what you hear, none of what you see. Or excuse me, half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man Louie T. Because you don't know what the motive is. Everybody's got an agenda and some type of ulterior motive this time of the year. So just be careful with that. That's all I will say. Anyway, with that said, I don't have anybody, I don't see any more comments, any more super chats. So what I want to do now is first and foremost, ask that you guys subscribe to the LouieTeeNetwork if you haven't already done so. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, hit the like button. Over 300 of you still out there. Only 143 likes. I'm glad we got it up over 100. Now let's get it up over $1.50. Let's get it up to $1.70 if we can. Really appreciate you guys. But now what I want to take the opportunity to do is now take a look at these quarterbacks that I have left on the docket. So I told you that we were going to take a look at the final 2 quarterbacks that I wanted to break down prior to the draft that I think have a chance to get drafted. And these guys will get drafted at some point in the 2021 NFL draft. It's just a matter of where. But I didn't talk about them on last night's show because they weren't in my top 7 and they weren't a sleeper for me and they weren't a part of my mover and shakers segment. So what I do want to take the time to do now is talk about these 2 quarterbacks in particular, and Jamie Newman and Kellen Mond. We'll start with the quarterback that is currently 10th in my quarterback rankings, and that is Jamie Newman. So we'll take a look at Newman, and I want to talk about Jamie Newman and what he brings to the table, why he's going to be an intriguing quarterback for somebody out there. Now, I was really disappointed. I'm not going to lie to you. I was really disappointed in the Jamie Newman tape. I was so anxious to watch him at Georgia. And after watching this film I was even more so looking forward to seeing him at Georgia because the offense that he played in, to me, did him a disservice. I thought it was a very deliberate offense, meaning that everything was so slow developing. It almost lulled you to sleep. I mean, he's doing read option, and he's keeping the football. I mean, they're at the mesh point for as long as you can possibly be at the mesh point without crossing the line of scrimmage, essentially. Like the running back's going towards the hole, and Newman's like walking with him, and he doesn't want to let it go because he wants the linebackers to suck up. It's just a weird offense that they ran. And I feel like it kind of bled into his play because he felt nonchalant to me. Like he was just kind of casual and he was slow playing stuff. There's pressure in the pocket and he's like really not aware of the pressure and he's not moving fast enough to get away from it. And it's just like his internal clock was just slow. And I think might have been a byproduct of the offense. Anyway, I'm going to read you his bio when I'm done breaking him down because I feel like his bio really encapsulates everything that I felt watching him and going into this process. But I do want to go ahead and get to his card. So let's flip this thing over and take a look at Jamie Newman. And so, the first strength is his frame. He's got a thick frame. He's damn near 240. This is a guy that's, walking around at about 230, 235. He's a big kid, man. And when you watch him on tape, he looks the part of a strapping, physically built quarterback that's tough to bring down. And look, running the offense that he ran, where in any given game he could have 17 carries, you need to be a bigger guy, a thicker guy. Arm talent. He can sling it, man. He can spin it. There's no shortage of arm talent here with Jamie Newman. I mean, he can let it rip. And there are times where you're like, bruh, take a little bit of sauce off of that thing, man. I know you like hot sauce, but that's got hot sauce to go. Take a little sauce off of that. That's an 8-yard shallow cross. Why are you throwing that thing at 96 miles an hour, bro? Take some of that sauce off. Damn, you're trying to break somebody's finger. So, he's got arm talent, though. Sturdiness and physicality. I'll go ahead and throw athleticism in there. He can run. Newman can run. So the athleticism is there. He's not a burner by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think he's a dynamic runner. Let me just say that. But he does have athleticism. Sturdiness and physicality. This is a guy that, much like I talked about with, I believe it was Trey Lance. I know I said this with Justin Fields. One of those guys that can stand in the pocket and you grab him, with one arm or you hit him. Like there's a play I'm watching him. I don't know how the hell he comes out of this wreckage. But he's doing the thing that he does. He's in the pocket. He's oblivious. Everything around him. You know that meme that you see all the time where a guy walks in and it's the meme where everything's on fire around him and they're like, everything's okay. That's how he is in the pocket at times. You can see everything's going all bad and he's just in there doop 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 doop, and he's not paying attention. And I don't know where a linebacker just mollywops him, and somehow he bounces off of that guy. The defensive end on the other side grabs him. He somehow is able to put his hand down on the ground and stumble out of that one. And I'm like, are you serious? Now, I think he did all of that and he still ultimately got sacked or he either, threw it away or something, but it was amazing. I'm like, that's some ridiculous contact balance. So he's extremely sturdy in the pocket. Like, you're not going to just come and hit him with a shoulder and knock him down. You're going to have to wrap up. He's a big dude. And he runs with physicality. When he runs, there are a lot of 1 and 2 yard runs. I'm like, what's the basis for this, man? Are we trying to set something up here? Because he'd take it quarterback draw and he just run into the back of his offensive line. I'm like, okay. Or he just run right into the middle linebacker. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? Are we setting something up? Because that was stupid. But he's a physical dude. He gives his wide receivers chances on 50-50 balls. That's probably my favorite thing about him, is if you turn on the tape, he's got Sage Surratt out there, 50-50 ball after 50-50 ball. He had another receiver in 2019, number 7, is going up and getting the rock. I mean, and Jamie Newman, to his credit, he gets one-on-one on the outside, I'm going to just give him a chance. All right, I'm going to just give my guy a chance. And these were some good balls to give your guys an opportunity to go up and make a play for you. So I do like that he will give guys an opportunity on a 50-50 ball, and he throws a really solid 50-50 ball. Pocket toughness. I kind of alluded to that earlier when I talked about him standing in the pocket and being willing to take shots. He's one of those guys that will take one to deliver one, okay? So he'll take a shot in the pocket knowing that he's got a receiver that's coming open and knowing he's going to get hit, but he'll deliver it. There's a great clip, and I may put this one out down the road, of him getting destroyed on a play. He should have been gotten rid of the football. It's his fault he got destroyed. And we're going to talk about one of the reasons he gets destroyed on plays at times. But he gets destroyed on this play, but he ends up throwing a touchdown pass, but he pays for it. But he was willing to take that shot because he knew, I've got a guy, and if I get it to him, it's 6. So he's willing to stand in the pocket and exude the toughness that some guys aren't willing to exude. For years, Eli Manning, if he saw a guy coming at him, you're getting a no-look Eli Manning special. And I saw that from Mac Jones a couple of times, where he sees the guy coming, he wants no smoke at all. All right, man, it's yours. You can have it. He throws that shit into the ground and he ducks and ducks for cover. And look, I'm not going to shit on that because that's how you play 15 years in the league. No, you got to pick your battles. Sometimes I'm going to need you to stand in there with your big boy pants and take the shot because you got one. Now, if it's a shallow cross and there's a defender right there, I'm not standing in there taking a shot for a shallow cross, especially if it's 2nd and 7. Now, I'll take my chances and try my hand at 3rd and 7. Opposed to taking a shot. So he's got pocket toughness, willingness to run. This is a guy that will tuck it and run. You know, when all else fails, he'll tuck it and run. My problem with him there is he's not really looking to extend to throw. When he tucks it to run, he tucks it to run. He's not tucking it, or he's not stepping up through the traffic and extending and buying time to stand behind the line of scrimmage and get it 37 yards down the field. Generally, if he doesn't see what he likes and he decides to run, he's gone. He's going to take off and run. But he will run. So that is a good attribute to have. He's got the athleticism to do it. Weaknesses. He's got limited starting experience. Only 16 starts under his belt. 12 starts in 2019. He had 6 games that he appeared in 2018. 4 of those were starts. So not a lot of tape. That's why this year in 2020 was going to be so big for him, because not only was he going to be a much bigger stage in the SEC at Georgia, but it was just a chance to see more tape on this guy. And really, we would have gotten a chance to see him in a much better offense, I believe, because I didn't love the offense he was in at Wake Forest. Doesn't anticipate. This is why he got crushed on that one play that I referenced earlier when he threw the touchdown pass, is he doesn't anticipate at all. He's one of those quarterbacks that, and you get this a lot in college football, where guys don't trust the system. They want to see a guy come open before they let it go. And, it's okay in college to do that at times, but you want to anticipate. And I can't tell you how many times, if he doesn't see the receiver open, he's not cutting it loose. And you can't win in the NFL like that. You got to know that this guy's running a bench route. And even though that corner's in trail technique, when he snaps it off, you just got to trust that he's going to be there and he's going to make a play on the ball. And he's going to make you right. You got to know that your guy's running a speed cut here, a 5-yard out. Snap that thing off. Let it go. And he's waiting to make sure that this guy comes open. And so instead of that guy catching it with 2 yards of space to turn up the field down the sidelines, he's catching it and having a toe tap because the timing and rhythm is all off. He just doesn't anticipate at all. He's got to see the guy wide open. Lacks urgency and seems too casual. Now, again, I said that, some of this might be a byproduct of the offense that he's in. I'm not going to crush him for this because when you watch it, the offense is so lackadaisical. It's a slow-moving offense. It lulls you to sleep. But he just doesn't seem to play with the sense of urgency. Like, when I watch a guy like Texas quarterback Sam Ehlinger, he plays like his hair's on fire. Like, there's a desperation to Sam Ehlinger on every snap. And you just don't get that with Jamie Newman. He's just like, we pick it up. If we don't, we'll get him next time. No pocket manipulation nor pocket mobility. Like, he doesn't manipulate the pocket, meaning he's stepping up. You get some guys off the edge with a little bit of heat, and your tackle's looking for you to just give him a break. Help him out a bit. Just step up. He'll keep the integrity of the pocket if you just step up. And Jamie Newman's just standing there. On one play, I think he gets hit. Ball comes out. I think it ends up in the end zone. And I'm like, all you had to do was step up, bro. All you had to do was step up. Like, what are we doing right now? Pressure's coming. Just dip the shoulder and step up. Nah. He's impacted. And like, he just doesn't have the mobility you need inside the pocket. Erratic accuracy. I told you that he's throwing fastballs all over the place to guys that are short to intermediate. He'll throw a dime and you'll be like, all right, Jamie, I see you. And then the next 2 passes go to hell in a handbasket. You're like, what the hell was that? And it'll be an open receiver. And there'll be some easy throws where you're just on 2nd and 7. You're just trying to get 5 to set up a 3rd and short. And he'll miss. And you're like, come on, man. Now it's 3rd and 7. That was the point of that play, was to get you an easy throw to either pick up the first down with some run after the catch if you throw an accurate ball, or to at least get 5 yards and get us into a really short, manageable 3rd down situation. And he'll spray it. He's spraying balls all over the place at all levels, not just deep, intermediate, and sometimes short as well. I'm going to read you my analysis on him real quick because I think it is important to think about this when it pertains to Jamie Newman. And then we'll go through his projection and comp and get out of here and move on to the next guy. My analysis for him reads as follows. No quarterback was hurt worse by COVID-19 this season than former Wake Forest quarterback Jamie Newman, who had transferred to Georgia as a graduate transfer and was poised to prove that he belonged among the elite quarterback prospects. But due to COVID-19, he decided to opt out for safety reasons. Jamie Newman's tape is limited and uneven. Only 16 starts over 2 seasons, and the inconsistency is tough to overcome. The offense he played in was simple and deliberate. Was really looking forward to seeing him at Georgia and how he would function in a different system. Would it speed up his tempo? Would his accuracy improve? Would he show better pocket presence? All of these questions we are now left to wonder, and without empirical proof, this to me sends him straight to the project category. Like, you can't look at the tape and say, I know this guy can come in and start in year 2. Give him 1 year, and I know this guy. He's a project now. Like, he needs multiple years of learning, sitting behind somebody, and really grasping the quarterback position. To me, he's a day 3 pick. And to be more specific, in my notes, I have him as a 5th round pick. I wouldn't take him any sooner than the 5th round. But I could see somebody falling in love with some of the attributes and taking him in the 4th. I can't see any way, shape, or form that he goes before day 3. And to me, I don't see how Jamie Newman comes off the board until the 5th round. I think it'd be a mistake if you take him, unless you've got a plan for him, But day 3 projection for me, and my comp for him is Jacoby Brissett. I see a lot of the same similarities. Jacoby's a big kid. He's a 235-pound quarterback. He's a guy with a big arm that can sling it. He's a guy that's mobile, but not a burner by any stretch of the imagination. I feel the same way sort of with Jamie Newman. I just see a lot of the same attributes. Big strapping guy that can stand in the pocket and be sturdy and strong. Can be accurate at times, but can be very inaccurate, as Jacoby Brissett can be from time to time. I see a lot of the same qualities in Jacoby Brissett. And much like it with the Patriots, all it took was one. I didn't see Jacoby Brissett as a 3rd-round pick, but that's what the Patriots did. They selected him 3rd round. Bill Parcells absolutely loved Jacoby Brissett. And as we know, Parcells is a mentor of Bill Belichick. And so, boom, there it is. Jacoby Brissett's a 3rd-round pick. I don't know if that happens for Jamie Newman or not, but that's where I see him, and that's my comp for him as it stands right now. We move on to the next guy, and the next guy is my 9th-rated quarterback prospect in the 2021 NFL Draft, and that is Kellen Mond, Texas A&M quarterback. Here's a guy with a very long starting career, over 40 starts, 44 to be exact for Kellen Mond. So plenty of tape to comb through. The one thing I can say with Kellen Mond is that you saw growth from 2017 to 2018 to 2019 to 2020. Like, you saw incremental gains in his game. There's still a lot to be desired, but he's not as bad as I thought he was going to be. And as my memory told me he was, because I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch a lot of Texas A&M football this year. I just didn't. So I had this preconceived notion of the Kellen Mond that I saw, prior to Jimbo Fisher taking over. And, I saw glimpses in 2019, and he wasn't good, in those games. I think there was an LSU game in 19 that I watched. I think he threw like 3 interceptions in it. Like, he was terrible. I'm like, yeah, Kellen Mond stinks. He grew up in his 4 years at A&M, and he's better because of it. Let's take a look. Let's flip this thing over, take a look at his card, and analyze him. We start with his experience. 44 career starts. That's a ton of experience, man. It's rare that you get that in today's NFL, today's college quarterback. Normally after 2 years of starting, if that guy is a true freshman, it's 3. If that guy is a, redshirt sophomore and he's started for the last 2 years, he's gone after 2 years of starting. So to get a guy that started essentially 4 years, that's big time. Arm talent. He can sling it, man. He can spin it. Much like I just talked about with Jamie Newman, he can rip it. And when he decides to let it go, it can go a long way. Athleticism. He's a much better athlete than Jamie Newman. He can move. He can really hurt you with his legs. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's definitely an athlete. Anticipation. That's one of the things that I saw him improve upon, man. Like, I wasn't expecting anticipation from Kellen Mond, but I saw it. I saw a guy that, knows that this guy's coming out of his break and that ball's out. As he whips his head around, here comes the football. It's right on you. That's how it's supposed to be. And it took him a while to get there. He used to be, I got to see it to believe it guy, And I think that had Jamie Newman played this past year, he might have ended up being like a Kellen Mond, where he develops into an anticipation thrower. Okay, I know where you're supposed to be. I'm going to go ahead and lead you there. And so that was really a breath of fresh air for me. That was something I wasn't anticipating. His anticipation. The next strength is pocket manipulation. This was another thing he has gotten so much better at. I can't tell you how many times I watched him climb the pocket, take his drop, climb the pocket, dip the shoulder, buy himself an extra second. All right, now he may not have completed the pass, but I'm like, that's good shit, Kellen. Okay? That's NFL quarterback stuff right there. So I see the progress with Kellen Mond. He's not as bad as I thought, and these are all workable traits at the next level. Pocket toughness. Talked about staring down the gun barrel, knowing you're going to take a shot, and being willing to deliver the football. Take one to deliver one, and he's willing to do that. Can throw with some touch. So going into this film, I saw him as a Cam Newton type, one of these dudes that everything is a fastball. Don't know if there's a changeup. Dwayne Haskins-esque. I don't know if there's a changeup in the arsenal. There were a few throws that, led me to believe like he can do this. Similar to, watching Dwayne, like Dwayne can put some touch on it sometimes. He can do it. It's like pulling teeth though with Kellen Mond. But I know he can throw with touch. And when he does, it's beautiful to watch. There's a throw. I want to say it's against Florida. And to me, that's the best game that I've ever seen Kellen Mond play. Was against Florida. Shootout game. Him and Kyle Trask going back and forth. And, Mond got the last laugh at the end, and they ultimately win the football game. And it's arguably the biggest win of his career. I don't even know if that's an argument that should be made. It's probably his biggest win of his career. And there's a throw over a linebacker, over the middle of the football field, to his tight end. And they've got a really impressive tight end. He's not eligible. I don't like talking about minors. So I'm not going to really go into great detail. But they got a tight end there that's pretty damn impressive. And Mond was finding him time and time again. And I think his name is Weidmeyer. And he hits him with this feathery, soft pass over the middle of the field that needed a little bit of arc and just a bit of touch. And he put it up there, and it just went over that defender's hand. And I said, hey, Kellen, that's what I'm talking about. Not sure if that's something I'm going to get from him all the time because a lot of his passes are on a rope, on a line. But that, I know he can do it. I know he can do it. Playmaker. So I don't think Jamie Newman is a playmaker with his legs. He doesn't scare me with his legs. He can run, but he doesn't scare me. Okay? Jacoby Brissett can run. He doesn't scare me with his legs. Kellen Mond scares me because if he gets out in space, he can do some damage with his legs. Like, he could take off, and we could be talking about a 47-yard run. But when he, just like Jamie Newman, when he escapes the pocket, he's not really looking to do damage with his arm. And when he does extend, he is inaccurate. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's a playmaker with his legs. He can hurt you with his legs. And so that is a definite strength of Kellen Mond. You look at his weaknesses. Accuracy is a weakness. And it's not that he's inaccurate. It's just the consistency is that the thing that I struggle with. When you look at his career, he's a 58% completion percentage guy over the life of his career. However, you got to remember, this guy started at the bottom. Now he's here. Okay? His first year as a starter, 51.5%. That'll kill your average. I don't care how good you are moving forward. That's going to kill your average. Then it was 57.3. It's an increase, but you started from the bottom, so you still got a long way to go. Then it's 61.6. Okay, now we're up over 60. I like it. We still need to be better, though. Still too close to 60. 63.3, I can live with that. So he gradually got better every year. And from what I watched, when his feet aren't set, that's when you get into issues with Kellen Mond. Is when he's in the pocket, his feet are set, he's comfortable, he can deliver an accurate ball. It's when he's got to step up in the pocket and he doesn't reset his feet, or he rolls out and now he's throwing on the move, that's when he gets inaccurate. And his deep ball is a big source of contention. You know, one of the big issues throughout his career is he just didn't hit the deep ball. You know, Jimbo Fisher was begging and pleading with Kellen Mond, bro, we need more big plays in this offense. So that tells you he struggles with the deep ball. That's especially one of the things he's going to have to clean up. He can be rattled. That's the next weakness. He can get happy feet in the pocket, man. I love those happy feet. And then begin dancing. He'll start dancing in the pocket, man. I watched him against Alabama, and it was crazy because the first drive of the game was beautiful. It was a thing of beauty. And then it's like the pressure of the game got to him. And he just started dancing back there. I'm like, bro, it's not even a ton of pressure. Like, the pocket isn't even collapsing. Like, why are we doing all of this movement? You know, why are we so jittery right now? So he can be rattled in the pocket a bit. He gets uncomfortable. You hit him early. He can get a little disheveled. Doesn't scramble and extend to throw. That's what I talked about when I say he's a playmaker, but legs only. When he extends a play, it's usually just to run. It's not to extend to throw. And when he does decide, I'm going to throw this one, he's inaccurate a lot of times. Very mechanical, lacks fluidity. This is one of my pet peeves with quarterbacks. Those guys with the chicken arm, with that chicken wing out there when they're throwing a football, like they're so mechanical that this is the way they were taught. Like I remember growing up playing baseball, and they would teach you when you pitch, you know, when you throw in a baseball, they wanted your arm at a 90-degree angle, your elbow out, and they wanted the ball up. And it should make a 90-degree. Like, that's bullshit, okay? Let me throw the ball. Don't teach me this mechanical shit. Let me throw it the way I throw it. And if you got to tweak some things here and there, all right, let's adjust. But, you know, when you teach the guys this chicken wing arm out just because you are trying to get them to keep their elbows up and then you want it to tuck in, you know, it restricts you from being loose out there. It's like a NBA player. NBA players, you know, shooters in particular, they don't like lifting weights because it makes them too tight. They want to be loose. They want to be able to be fluid. And I think as a quarterback, if you're a playmaker, if you're an off-schedule guy, you want to be fluid. You don't want to be mechanical. And he's mechanical. Everything he does seems like it's segmented, you know? And that's what reminded me so much of the guy that I comp him to. I remember I went back to my notes just because the first guy that popped in my head was him. And same thing I wrote down, very mechanical. Got the chicken wing elbow out there and, you know, everything is so compacted. And I'm just like, loosen up, guy. Relax. You're too uptight. And he just lacks fluidity for me in that regard. And then ball security. And some of that is because of that damn chicken wing elbow. You hit that shit, the ball's coming out. This guy fumbled the ball 22 times in 4 years at the quarterback position. Okay? 22 fumbles. We're talking about damn near 6 fumbles per season. That's asinine. We're up over 5 a pop. That's insane. And he lost 10 of them. So that's not as egregious as the 22 fumbles, but as we all know, fumbles are luck of the draw. Sometimes they bounce right back to you or they bounce right to one of your linemen and you get a gratuitous bounce. Other times it bounces right to a defender or it's right outside of your reach. And so that easily could have been 18 lost fumbles. You fumble it 22 times, you just gave the opposition 22 opportunities to take the football away from you. That's way too many. Way too many. And it's not like, oh, he had 9 in his first year starting and then he had 8 the next year. Nope. It's 4 in 2017. It's 7 in 18. It's 6 in 19. And it's another 5. And remember, only 10 starts. So if we extrapolate a normal college football season, he would have played 13 games. He probably would have fumbled once or twice more. So that's something he's got to clean up, man. I said all of that to say this. Kellen Mond is better than Brett Hundley. Brett Hundley's still in the league. Kellen Mond can find a way to survive in this league. I believe that firmly. So I got an early day 3 projection on him. Think somebody might take him in the 4th round. I could see somebody taking him in the 5th round as well. But my comp for him, as I already mentioned, is Joshua Dobbs, the ex-Tennessee quarterback. There's so many striking resemblances here. And much like Joshua Dobbs, and I actually went back into my notes and looked up what I had to say about Dobbs. Joshua Dobbs was another guy that I didn't think much of going into the process, watched the film, and was actually impressed. And I thought Joshua Dobbs was going to be a little bit more successful. I thought he was going to have a Dak Prescott type career in Pittsburgh, and I was wrong. I don't know if, Kellen Mond is going to have a Dak Prescott type of career or not, but that's what you're hoping for is a 4th or a 5th round pick, a Dak Prescott type of ascension. But I think he's more Joshua Dobbs than he is Dak Prescott, because Dak Prescott wasn't mechanical. He was fluid, and you could see Dak being a playmaker potentially at the next level. I don't necessarily see that with Kellen Mond. So there you go. Those are my 2 quarterback rankings that I wanted to kind of give you guys. And being that we don't have any more super chats, I think that is it for the night. We covered a lot tonight. We covered Sheriff. We covered the quarterback position. We covered the 2 prospects at the quarterback position that I wanted to talk about. We covered the Cam Newton discussion. We covered a lot tonight, and I look forward to doing it again with you guys next week as well. Remember, I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington football team. Once more, just in case you guys haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit that like button. Still 260 of you out there, only 170 likes. We got it up to 170. I asked for that. I appreciate you. Now, coming down home stretch, can we get it to 200? That's the final number. Can we get it to 200? Really appreciate you guys. And also remember, if you're not a part of the Mob Squad, MOBB, stand up. We in the building. If you're not a part of the Mob Squad, make sure you sign up. Gonna have some exclusive content in the mob, especially when it comes to the Washington football team mock draft and film breakdowns for those players. If you want that, only going to be in the app on the Flick app. Down in the description, you'll find the link to that and all of my social media accounts. Remember, if you want film breakdowns of random guys at random times, you don't know when or where they're going to come from, make sure you're following me on all social media platforms. With that said, I'm going to get out of here, allow you guys to enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. We may reconvene tomorrow. It's Friday. I want to do a podcast, but I don't know if I'm doing a podcast. I think I just may bypass the podcast this week, focus in on some more of these prospects, and get ready for next week. Either way, I'll see you guys in the very near future. You guys, take care. Have a good one. See you next time. Thank you for joining me.
LouieTeeNetwork.